so please be here. The speaker has already joined, so we'll be starting in 5 minutes.
Yeah, maybe while we wait, we'll probably also do a few quick polls, so just so that we understand what the different folks do. So are all of you doing some sort of a startup? I know that a fellowship itself sort of evolved over a period of time. So how many of you here are doing some sort of a startup? My other question is, like, say, I think we are also taking folks who are doing different kinds of social ventures, tech or non-tech. So how many of you here are doing some sort of a startup? Maybe we can just show of hands, or like say there's a Zoom thing where you can show a, yeah, cool. Nice. And just curious, what are the other folks doing? What are the different kinds of people we have in the call today? Maybe, I don't know if one of you can answer, or we can probably do like a quick round robin around the room, just to see. I'm just curious to understand what sort of folks do we have, so that I will also probably cover relevant stuff because the topic is anyway very wide. So.
Yeah, sure. Everyone can go one by one and just do a one-liner of what they are working on.
Yeah.
Hey, hi, Senthil.
Hey, Vignesh.
Hi, Vignesh. Sorry for the background noise. I'm just heading back to my space. So first of all, great to see you after a long time. We had connected like 2 years back through Aparajita. And so to quickly tell you, I've been in the same. Earlier, I was running Turtle that time when we met. So Turtle kind of, I had an headset with Madan Karki, if you know Madan Karki. And now me, Madan Karki, and couple of creators, we are building something called Canvas. It is a creator-first tool where we are enabling creators to kind of look at building interactions for any block of content. It could be word, a paragraph, a pixel of an image, or it could be a second of a video as a fiat currency interaction or as an NFT. And we have just launching it in, we've been doing the closed beta in US and India. And we have just, announcing everything. And we have raised a small round of funding as well. And that's what I've been working on.
Cool. Yeah, I was probably looking at like just a quick one-liner, more brief one, so that we'll be able to cover most of the folks.
Hey, sorry,
yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll get like, no, I didn't mean what you told, Vignesh. I'm just intending to cover more folks as much as possible. So who wants to go next while we wait for the rest of the folks?
Yeah. Hi, Senthil. I'm Vikas this side, and we are a blockchain-based startup, and we are also building something on the lines of creators. And we want to build a decentralized social network around creators. And what we are starting with is just this. We are just allowing you to make money for your 30 minutes of your time, and people will get paid in crypto. And there are like all multiple things. Thank you.
Sorry. I've already heard Anubat talk about what she's doing.
Yeah, hi Senthil. This is Senthil here. So I run a medtech startup. It's called GeoVio Healthcare, where we build this kind of a wearable device to monitor a pregnant mother in a tribal remote region. So this device can monitor the health parameter and directly send these vitals to the doctor. So we almost done 36,000 plus home-based checkup, mostly covering Western Ghat region, starting from Kerala to Maharashtra, all the tribal community. We deployed this.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Hi, Senthil. Intaz here. We are developing computational photography camera, Cold Sniper. So like we are, trying to install like this open photography camera at public spaces so that like people get the pre-installed setup to capture their own photo. Like people are getting free water and free Wi-Fi at public spaces. Right. So we are trying to remove the role of photographer so that any individual can have their own photograph.
Nice, nice.
Hi,
Hi,
can
Center.
I go next?
No, it's okay. Go.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so this is Kash. I am from Lahore, Pakistan. As a full-time job, I am running the largest volunteer connecting platform here in Pakistan. And for my own thing, I am running I recently founded the largest creators community here in Lahore.
Nice. I think creators seems to be like a common undercurrent with a lot of different folks. Good to meet. I think creators economy is going to be big over the next 10 years. So good to see a lot of.
We are running the largest city advocacy campaign here in Lahore.
Nice, nice. Good to know.
Hi, Senthil. This is Anushka.
Anushka,
yeah. I'm founder of Share at Doorstep, and it's a platform through which people can donate the items they're not using anymore, and that goes to one of the NGOs we support based on their requirements. And based on the donations made and the carbon emissions reduced, people get points, which can be redeemed for different vouchers and goodies from sustainable brands. So that's what we do.
Nice.
We are in 11 cities currently in India. So yeah.
Nice, very nice. I'll probably go in the same order in which I'm seeing these. I'm seeing like Nandita next to it. Do you want to go, Nandita?
Hi, Senthil. I'm Nandita from Kerala. I'm presently trying to connect traditional crafts with technology. I'm working with an organization, a research institute called BAG in Amsterdam. We'll be leaving in a couple of weeks. Previously, I used to work with magazines and crafts, which actually prompted me to do this.
Got it. Very nice. Hey, Prashant, do you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Prashant. I'm from Bangalore, and I'm the co-founder of Repeatable. We're an edtech platform mainly focused on building a playful project-based learning environment for kids in the elementary school age groups.
Nice.
The goal is how do you build a global kid community where children across the world can connect and engage and explore things that they are really passionate about. So
there are a bunch of things that are becoming very famous, right? Like Roblox is just one of them, where children create video games which others play. So it's it's a very interesting space. I think we've pretty much covered most of the books. Aditya?
Yeah. So hello. Hi, Senthil. This is Aditya from Scout Design Labs, and we are basically transforming waste from costing disposal to generating profit out of it. So we have developed a technology of recycling single-use plastic, C&D waste, industrial waste into composite building materials, and thereby converting them into products like block, brick, and tile that can be sold into the market. So that's what we do.
Nice. I think we just have a couple more, Shashwat and Abhishek. Do you guys want to do a quick one-liner and we'll get started?
Perfect. I'm so sorry. I'm in the hospital. I can't switch on the video right now, but I'll be on video very soon. Hi, Senthil. It's great to meet you. I'm a neurologist and I'm doing a fellowship in endovascular neurosurgery right now. I'm based in Phoenix, Arizona. And I have a small startup and we are trying to make brain stents for stroke treatment. They're very similar looking to heart stents used for heart attacks, but they work in a very, very different way. So the objective is to make them much more affordable than they are right now and try and reduce costs from $8,000 to like maybe $800 and make them more safe and effective.
Nice. Very nice.
Yep. I'll be on video very soon.
Yeah. No worries. Abhishek, I think you're the last.
Hi, Senthil. So, I am working on electrification of HVAC system of vehicles, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system. So it consumes 18% of fuel economy. The conventional system, and what I am building is will give an 18% of fuel economy benefit and equivalent amount of carbon dioxide reduction. So basically what I am doing is managing energy between engine alternator, thin film solar module on the roof of vehicle and the electrical compressor. So I've done the bench level setup and working on vehicle level prototype.
Very nice. Okay. I think we pretty much covered at least everybody on the screen, at least from what I see. We'll probably get started.
Sure.
Yeah. Let me probably I'll try and give like a short intro on my journey shortly. But before that, I'd love to understand what is that which you guys would want to probably discuss today, or like you're just curious to know one or two things that I can probably share that could probably be useful for you guys. So if there are any one or two such themes, I'd love to understand more, so that I'll see if I can touch upon those a bit and also make it relevant for you guys. Do any of you have a specific few things that you want to walk away with today, or you just want to listen to the journey and probably then ask for, like, say, a couple of questions? That is fine too. Yes, Vikas.
Yes, Senthil, I would be interested in, like, let's say, understanding what are the friction that you face when you actually move out from India to US and different geography. Because on the ground, on the higher level, it looks like all the rosy story. But on the ground, what are the real challenges actually to make things work in the different countries? How do you actually understand your TAM, like what the target market in the sense, like how do you understand users essentially? Those things. I would be really, really interested in those. Thank you.
Got it. Anyone else? Anything else? Okay. I think I'll probably get...
May I?
Yes, Nadita, go ahead. Yeah.
I would like to really know the journey from, I know that previously your company has been acquired by Freshworks and all that journey, and then how, moving from that space to a bigger company and all that. Yes, specifically that how that happened. How that would be great.
Got it. Okay, two things. So I'll probably touch upon a bit on the acquisition itself and see what I can cover there. Yeah. What else? Okay, I will probably go ahead with the journey, and as we go, we can probably also interject, have a couple of breaks in between to cover any questions that pop up in your heads. So sound good? Cool. So I'll probably start off with a short, like 20-30 second intro on my journey. So Freshworks has been the third startup journey for me. I got a chance to be part of at least 3 startup to scale up sort of phase of different companies. The first one was a company where I got a chance to join as, like, say, the first product manager. It was an ex-Amazon, ex-Microsoft company, in the sense like CEO used to be an senior vice president with Amazon, and the CTO was from Microsoft. And a lot of my college seniors were joining the company, and one of them was kind enough to sort of get me into the very early team. Got a chance to join, but the company was very, very small, right? Which, practically we could fit all of us in one conference room. That's the stage in which I got a chance to join. Hardly, it would be like 15-20 people, if I'm not wrong. And so from there, it was a B2B software, and it was based out of Seattle, and we had like a sort of a 2-in-a-box sort of an approach. We had a Seattle office and a Chennai office, and got a chance to work very closely with the founding team as well as the early team there. So that pretty much shaped a lot of my career. And even though on paper I was a product manager, I did like multiple things during that point in time, including different customer interactions and so on and so forth. So from there, the company got acquired. So that's when I came out and started my company, which is Philp, and that's during which when we got in touch with the fellowship, and we were one of the first few batches, or probably the first batch of the fellows ourselves. So we were incubated at IIM Ahmedabad, and I think Asha was visiting IIM Ahmedabad at the point in time. So we happened to, she was part of the demo day, and she sort of saw it and felt that there could be synergies, which she could help through the fellowship, and we sort of got on board. So that's my second journey, which is Frill itself, where we were trying to build a recommendation system for trusted recommendations on businesses. The next one is where the acquisition happened. We raised a few rounds of investment from VCs and angels, and we were in the process of raising the next one, and during which we had a bunch of acquisition inbound interest from different companies like Flipkart, Amazon, and Intuit, Times Internet, a whole bunch of them, 7 or 8 of them. And we chose to get acquired by Freshworks for several reasons. One, it was like a great company, great founder, and so on. So that's when the second journey, which is my company, came to an end, and I got a chance to join Freshworks. And undoubtedly, it was one of the best things to happen to us. It sort of helped us grow as a human being, as well as a professional, as well as do whatever we were doing at a much bigger scale of impact. So in short, and I joined Freshworks, and Freshworks itself was like a startup, right? When it was probably like 300, 350 people is when I got a chance to join. And today we are probably north of 4,000 people and like probably 15 plus offices across the globe. I joined when there was only one office. So got a chance to learn and see very important milestones in very close quarters for the different. We were also the first external leaders to come inside the company, and I was working closely with the CEO as well as the CEO at that point in time. So by the virtue of which, got a chance to do, or got a chance to work on problems which otherwise was accessible only to the CEO and the CEO. So it was a very interesting journey. So today, Freshworks has 4 major product lines. One on customer experience, second is on IT experience, third is on sales and marketing cloud, and fourth one is on HR. And there are 4 business unit leaders who manage each one of these, or in other words, let's say general managers who manage these. And I'm one of them. I take care of one of the business lines for Freshworks. So that's in short what my journey through the last probably 15 plus years has been. So let me get started with 1 or 2 questions that already popped up, and I'll also see if I can share some relevant stories from the journey or some pictures, wherever it's relevant. So to start off with, I think somebody was, I think it was Vikas who was talking about what was our foray into the markets that were outside. So thankfully, I'll probably talk about Freshworks, which was the most relevant one. So Freshworks was slightly different animal altogether, because from day one, the first customer itself was came from Australia, right? So it, in a way, it was like, say, global from day one. I'd say it really boils down to very deep understanding of what problem you're solving. In that case, we first started with, the company used to be called Fresh Desk, and we were having a software by which other businesses can manage their customer interactions. So what I mean by that is, it can be incoming calls which somebody is calling for support. It can be a chat which you put on your website or inside your app where people are asking questions and someone from your customer experience team is answering them. Or it can be, like, say, on Twitter, somebody is posting a question, and you're able to track, trace, and close it by routing it to the right person inside the company, and so on and so forth. This was our first software, and because the founder had been managing a business on his own earlier, and he was indirectly or directly managing like a support team. So he already knew the problem that that we were dealing with, and he managed like a business where he understood the workflows very, very deeply. In this case, how a customer inquiry comes in for a business, and what are the different steps that are involved before it gets answered and you get a loop closure, right? So to answer your question, because we were in B2B and we were in SMB, which is small and medium businesses, we had a very unique advantage where it was also the time when SaaS was picking up. SaaS as in, like, say, cloud software given as a subscription, right? In the previous era, you had to purchase software. If you were to, like, say, get a Tally, like 15 years back, you'll be paying like a license fee and get it, like, say, as a one-time software, right? So that trend was changing, and we were one of the forerunners on making these softwares delivered over internet with very, very low friction to onboard into the software. So practically, it's like as good as signing up for Gmail or signing up for Trello. You just go to Trello.com and you put your credentials, and then you start using it like 5th minute from the time you sign up, right? So it was deep understanding of the go-to-market as well. What I mean by that is we wanted the initial motion to be self-serviceable. And the third piece here is understanding where your customers are, right? So that's where for B2B and a category where it's already well established, right? In this case, a customer help desk is a known idea, right? We are not the company who's trying to evangelize what a customer help desk was, right? For versus if I were a Uber, people were not used to hailing a cab by using an app, right? So we were not the category creators, and there are a bunch of advantages because of that, right? Today, you don't have to explain the advantages of an electrical vehicle to somebody, right? You have like Ether, and you have like so many people who has already done that. And if you were to do like a company in this area with some specific offering or like some uniqueness, people will instantly get it, right? So it's in the same way, almost every business were using a contact center or some sort of a customer interfacing, tracking and workflow tracing solution to close it. So because of that, combining that with, like, say, a self-serviceable product-led, product-led onboarding, right? Which means traditionally software was mostly sold to, right? In any big enterprises or medium-sized enterprises, a salesperson will call you and basically, tell you about the different advantages. They probably will have a series of meetings before it's sold. We were also anchoring on the first wave of the change, which was the Trello-like experience. You go to Gmail and you sign up, or you go to Trello or Asana today and you just sign up. You don't talk to a salesperson. It's as simple as you installing WhatsApp on your phone, right? So in summary, one, understanding of the problem where we had already worked on it, so we knew exactly what we were talking about. Two, understanding how your product and your business model combines, which in this case, understanding very deeply about the self-serviceability of the product, where you can sign up and start using it all by yourself. So you have to think of designing your product in a way that this promise is kept. And third is the go-to-market itself, right? Which is because we were always operating on commoditized categories, which means we don't have to establish why a business needs a software, right? Today, almost everybody know that if you are running a company, you need a business email, right? You can go and sign up for Gmail, or you can go for Rackspace, or you can go for Office 365, where they can give you, like, say, like business domain for your email address. For example, like motwani.jadeja.com or Rajeev Circle Fellowship can be like a domain, and you can just sign up for yourself, right? So in this case, we're not convincing anybody on why a business needs email, right? That's a very commoditized idea already, and we just have to say, hey, why my email solution is better, right? And you just have to be in front of that particular customer when they are looking for this. So that to us, the third point was understanding where people are already looking for this, where is the demand, and just being in that place. Typically, one challenge a startup goes through is to build the product as well as to build the demand, right? So what we decided was we will not build the demand and we'll just be in a place where the demand already exists, which so happens to be for, like the Google search engine for us, right? So if you go and search for any of the categories in which we operate, maybe CRM or help desk or let's say a recruitment software or a HRIS software, it's already so commoditized that so many people already know what they are searching for, and they just will do a quick comparison on, hey, these are the two problems which I'm trying to solve. Will this software help me do that? So you'll have to tie what people are the entire experience into your workflow. For example, if they're looking for these three problems, are you helping them discover that your product can solve that quickly? And are you also showing them a sample on how it is going to look if they're looking for, like, say, a specific problem to solve for? And can all this happen in the first 10-15 minutes, right? So these are nuances which might be very specific to the area in which we operate, but the broader rules are all the same, right? Which is know where demand exists and have your lead generation to be scalable. And second, whatever the product that you're offering, ensure that it is working in tandem with the other parts of your business, which is your demand generation or how your customers get to discover your product. And the first one is how much you know about the problem that you're talking about, right? And is there like a clear person who owns this problem inside a company, so that when you make a product for it, that person has the need as well as the money to buy it in such a way that the opportunity comes to your startup. So those will be like, say, the 3 points. And for us specifically, because of this thing, it was like Trello. We theoretically didn't make it as an explicit step to go global. We were global. As I told, the first customer of ours came from Australia who didn't know any of us. And they just went, trialed the whole software to see what it offers. And they had a specific problem for which they were looking for. It was a university in Australia called Atwell College. And they were looking to service their student queries for admission. And they were looking for, like, say, hey, if an email comes in, is it, can I just track that as a ticket? Where internally there are going to be 6 people in the admissions committee who's going to look into it. So I just need to be able to assign it to either Vikas or Nimi or Anushka. And depending on whose responsibility it is, can this be, like, say, passed on? Those are the only one thing that they were looking for. And so for those reasons, it was like global from day one. And the offices that we actually opened, like, say, 6 years later, was actually to go more mid-market and enterprise, where the sales motion was different, where you had to do outbound, where you had to, in this case, all the customers are finding us. When we opened the office, like, say, at the 6th and 7th year, it was more to reach out to the customers voluntarily from our side. So that was, I hope it probably answered at least, like, say, parts of what you were looking for. I know that the relevance, because we have a very diverse set of community here in the call today, relevance might be like specific to what you want out of this. That's why I kept to both specifics as well as I abstracted it in such a way that, the common parts which applies to everybody still applies. Yes, Anushka.
Yeah, hi. So I come from a sales background, sales and marketing, and I was just wondering that you mentioned that most of the clients were inbound. So what was your outbound strategy whenever you started? And if you can touch upon the regulations which are different across the world on the privacy. So email marketing and all that will change. And besides email marketing, in-mail advertising, like what all you use and what worked really well for you with the open rates, if you can share.
Got it. I think we had one more question. I'll probably answer Anushka's before we get there. because there's like a nice segue from what I spoke earlier. So the regulations are pretty much table stakes, Anushka, meaning almost, I mean, it's a figured out problem. You're not the first one to solve it. So you're better off trying to work with somebody who already know. I mean, it's like a zero-sum game with respect to regulations. What everybody else is facing is what you're also facing. So there is nothing new to innovate there. You just either talk to the right startup community folks. It can be an accelerator, it can be like, say, a firm which helps you with this. It's like so many people get stuck with transactional stuff like, hey, how do I register a company in this in US, or how do I do X, or how do I do Y? See, if it's common enough that, like, say, 10 other people before you have done this, it's not worth spending time trying to reinvent the wheel. You just have to figure out some expert who can help you with that and then go ahead with it, right? So on those cases, so when you mean regulatory, I'm assuming that it's more like GDPR, where how do you communicate, or how do you outbound to the person when they have not given their preference and all that. So almost all the tools that are there, marketing tools that are there, are GDPR compliant, and they will have ways by which you can handle it. We are not doing anything new. And GDPR is also slightly more new. It didn't exist when we were originally doing outbounding. But because it's such a mainstream problem, it's also like a solved problem, right? Almost all the tools support GDPR related actions. You're not going to, I would not recommend spending time on such trivial stuff, meaning you just have to talk to one or two either startup founders who has gone through the journey, and it is usually just a sales stack that you will have. It will be like outreach plus LinkedIn Sales Navigator plus Zoom Info or something of that sort. You buy when you're doing outbound, you start developing like an account book, and there are a lot of lists that you can ready-made buy from a Zoom Info, or like, say, there are Clearbit, there are Lucia, there are a bunch of such service providers who will give you industry-specific lists, and then you have like you put together a small sales development team which will start doing cold outreach, and there are multiple tools for that too. So, okay, the point which I'm just saying is the GDPR or privacy is like a solved problem already, right? I mean, ideally, where you should be spending time is figuring out how can you do your outreach that is very specific to the problem that you're solving, and how do you hit the nail with respect to what you're telling in your email resonating with the person's problem, right? In terms of the actual privacy part, it's a solved problem. In fact, if you talk to, like, say, a sales rep from outreach, they themselves will be able to help, because they would have dealt with so many such customers. So, like, for that matter, like, we have our marketing stack called Fresh Marketer. If you just talk to one of our folks, they'll be able to tell you all the trivial things. It's, as I told, it's like a pretty much a solved problem. Did I answer your question, or did you have like a second part to it?
Yeah, so I think mostly, but when I talk to, like, as you said, you can buy data from Lucia and all that and then use it. What I was told by the clients who are in US, that you are not supposed to reach out to someone by buying something like from the internet, and you can reach out to the clients in India that way. So cold emails are not like appreciated outside of India, but India, it has worked for us. We were using SandGrid and we used others as well. We were not able to find the best solution, and obviously there's a whole iteration of what kind of mail you should iterate and all that. But I was looking if I can like outsource with something like Netcode or like agency, which can help us like kind of catalyze the whole process, because it is a time-consuming process. And even Lucia and all are pretty expensive when it comes to getting the data. So if you're able to get data from an agency which already has like a whole database of specific customers or clients, that can work much better. That's what I feel like. That's what I struggled with actually.
So we use like a multi-pronged approach. One is we have something called a market research team internally. We started off with, like, say, 1-2 people, and that probably has become like a 50-member team. We sort of, whatever Lucia will be doing inside the company, we do it ourselves, right? Based on LinkedIn, right? So which is basically aggregating data points let's say if you take, for example, Uber as a company, right? So there will be data points that will be spread across so many websites about Uber. For example, a person from Uber would have spoken in a conference. There, the details will be like published, and by looking at the topic of the conference, you'll know if this person is the right, and depending on what he or she has spoken, you will be able to understand what he or she owns. And if that is, if talking to that person will help you reach somebody inside Uber who owns this problem or not, is something which you'll be able to understand. So long story short, the point being, you can also start with, like, say, small 1-2 person team who is doing this list population internally, right? And I'd recommend you to try looking at this thing called Jellyfish. So they do outreach purely on LinkedIn, LinkedIn email or LinkedIn message, and they sort of garner interest on the problem that you're trying to solve for. They basically say, hey, we are a startup, we are doing this, and we'd like to get, like, say, 30 minutes to validate this hypothesis with you. Will it be okay, right? So they don't come across as salesy, and they help a lot of startups refine their outbound pitch in such a way that you can do cold outreach and still get responses, right? So the art of how to do that is something which people do. So these are a couple of ways by which you do, which is in markets where if you're not, like, say, able to do it all on your own, you can start putting together a small sales development / market research team, which does this internally and gets data from multiple sources. So that's theoretically not like buying a list. The third part is making the people come to your place and subscribe to something, and then after that you can have a nurture journey, right? That's where the whole content marketing comes in, which sort of converts this entire funnel to be an inbound funnel, right? So content marketing and whole bunch of, and whatever I'm talking about makes sense for B2B. So different, because you're across different spectrum. So take that with a pinch of salt. But for B2B world, giving something resourceful and useful is also one way by which you can make your audience come to your site and give consent that they can basically receive a communication from your site, right? So this can be like the popular formats that you'll be seeing is like webinar with an expert, or, like, say, ebooks, or an analysis that you did, a survey that you did with, like, say, 100 people, and the result of that survey, which possibly has some utility value for me as a consumer, as a, like, say, as a leader inside a company. So you create something with utility, and you can make people come and visit you and then give consent. And once they give consent, it's basically you can write back to them and all that. So those are just like 3 of the probably 50 different ways by which you can do. I'm just telling you the both the top of the mind and as well as some of the impactful ones that we have used.
Thanks. So those were really important, like, nice points. Just one more quick one. Do you generally go with top-down or bottom-up approach? Like, what worked for you for your company?
Meaning, when we
like,
reach out
do you
to
go to the CEO? If I have to reach out to HR, for example, or the decision maker, will I go to the CEO and then reach out to the HR, or will I go to the HR and then get the approval from CEO? You know,
the dynamics is different for different segments, Anushka, right? When you're dealing with an small business, which is where a majority we specialize in small business. Small business, if you're taking a 50-member company, the influencer may have enough amount of influencer, as in, let's say, it can be a project manager, it can be like an employee, will have enough say on the decision that is being made on the software itself, right? So, and many times it's also ground up, like Slack, right? Slack entered every single company because it was a disposable, it came into the disposable budget of a manager, right? Meaning every manager will have $50-$100 to spend a month, and Slack came under that budget, and it entered a company with every manager using it for their team, and eventually IT comes to know that there are 1,000 people who's using it, and then they entered. So most of our softwares, so the dynamics changes depending on which segments that you're dealing with. For us, because we deal with a lot of small companies, it is also many cases it's basically an end user who is basically signing up. But let's say a good 30% of it's also the founder himself or herself who's basically signing. I'm pretty sure some of you will be like, would have been the person who took the call on which email services, like say Outlook or Gmail, or is it basically which payment service? Do you go with PayPal or Stripe, right? You would have taken that call. So it is also that way. So it depends on segments. In more mature organization, there's a very clearly identified owner. So in other words, you have to think of whose OKR are you hitting by your product, right? In other words, whose appraisal inside a company will be impacted if they don't solve this problem. And that person, you have to figure out a way to reach out to that person.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you.
And we had one more question sometime back. Can you probably quickly help me recollect that? And just
I think on that part. Chat by Vignesh, if you don't mind, do I read it to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my question to you was like, when you got the acquisition offer, and you mentioned that you had multiple acquisition offers, right? So is there, you would have gone into a mindset of doing research and like figuring out, okay, this is why, these are the basic criteria which I have to fill in for me to give my company to, let's say, a bigger company. So what was those criteria which you had gone through?
Got it. I think, yeah, that question was itself around acquisition. How did you decide and all that, right? So the acquisition was not something that we planned for. It was just inbound, and we had to react quickly and take that call at that point in time on what's the best foot forward that we can put place, right? So let me just break this into two parts. We were just fortunate to be part of good accelerators like Microsoft Accelerator. The fellowship circle itself was like very powerful, and we were part of also Ahmedabad Accelerator. So a lot of these requests also came through these accelerators because in a way, for many of these accelerators, we were also like a poster child. And I also have like a theory to that, right? It's called the golden horse theory, where in many cases, if you become the golden horse, every accelerator or every community that you're part of also has to showcase, something as their success criteria or something as a case study which they feel that it's worth showing, right? So if you can, the way by which you change the equation is, or generate inbound request, is to be this golden horse, right? Where you stand out in one or two ways, and that sort of becomes a story for the community around you to start showcasing. And when that happens, you don't have to do everything to propagate or to basically attract opportunities. There's a lot of, you create yourself a way by which you can start getting inbound requests. So that way, we were one of the few companies which was working on an interesting area. We had good support. We had like Asha Goyal, who was also like trying to work with us on the problem. And we had like a bunch of, Asha Goyal is a prof who's working in a similar area from Stanford. We got a chance to meet him during the fellowship, and the relationship grew further. He came in as an advisor on the board, and we were working on the problem. So because of a bunch of these things, we sort of also became a good way or a good story for each of these communities to start talking about. And as a result of which, companies started noticing. And when we were in the market to raise our next round of funding, they were also like asking, hey, will you be interested in exploring other ways by which we can work together, which was through acquisitions. So first part of the answer is, how did we get to acquisition, or how did we get that inbound? it was a combination of being out there where a lot of people were knowing us because of the organic PR that was happening, because of the it's not just us who was talking about it, it was also the community that was talking about it. And two, when we were out in the market for our next fundraise, naturally there are two kinds of funding that will come in, which is like a pure VC funding, which is just money. There will also be corporate funding that will come because a company finds it interesting and there might be future synergies, so they want to like put in some money. So that's how the whole thing kicked off. And before we could react to it, it sort of started gathering more mass, and we had like say 7-8 sort of inbound requests. And we also thought, while the opportunity is short, we'll also see how deep can this go. So Microsoft Ventures and all these accelerators also spread the word the moment we started getting one or two things to all the other companies that they were in touch with. Because usually with all these accelerators, companies also have an eye and ear on these accelerators, so that if a company of interest or a problem in which the company is working on is also worked upon by a startup, they'll at least be curious to attend the demo days and so on. So the moment we started getting 2-3, Microsoft Ventures and iSpurt, which was another organization and the startup community, started push the word out to more companies, and more companies started conversations with us. So that was how the different conversations happened, right? Partially community, partially by our investors, and so on. And how did we decide? In fact, Freshworks was not even there in the list of this thing. I mean, we were in very advanced, because it's also a very close community, I'm just being more candid. We were in advanced conversation with Amazon and Flipkart, and Girish was one of our angel investors, and that's how the founder of Freshworks. And we went in a way to him to look for some advice on, hey, which will be like a better option, right? All these are happening, like all these 7-8 conversations are happening, and which will be a better option. And he feels like, hey, you know what? If you guys are interested, we should start thinking about Freshworks also. Like I'd add that to the mix. So that's how the thing happened. And because we knew there were a couple of considerations. One, going for a very big company. By then Flipkart was very, very big, and so was Amazon, right? Going for a very big company and talking to other founders who had been acquired in the past by some of these big companies. There was one signal which is very strong, wherein it is very dependent on the group to which you're getting acquired to. You're not acquired by the company, so to say, you're acquired by a specific group inside the company, or like say business inside the company. So it depends on which group, which leader is acquiring you, and what is the vision which he or she has for what you want to do. And typically you're like a small fish in a big pond. And what we were not sure is how much of impact will we be able to drive was something that we couldn't visualize in both the cases. Versus we were the first acquisition for Freshworks, and Freshworks by then had like a great culture. What I mean by culture is it was a product company at its heart. For every problem, they were thinking product solutions. It was already like say soaring with respect to the growth. Company was growing north of 100% year on year, and the founder himself was a great human being with respect to his humility, with respect to his honesty. So it is a combination of all these, and the fact that we could drive more impact joining a smaller company was what was really the biggest motivation at that point in time. It also depends on context to context. I mean, there are companies which, like Ali got acquired by Microsoft. Microsoft in this case was a very, very big company. But in this case, there's a very strong product strategy, and they'll probably be able to do better impact over time doing that. So they went into that. So it's very context specific. But for us, it's a trust that we shared with the founder. And this is what he basically told. I mean, within closed doors, I'm just telling this, but when we joined, when we were having this conversation with Girish, he was like, hey, you can go to one of these big companies like Amazon, and then you can be like a small fish in a big pond, versus you stand a chance to create the next Amazon, right? You choose which one you want to do, right? At that point in time, it was actually very, very lofty. But 6.5 years later, 3 weeks back when we were actually doing the IPO celebration in Times Square, it felt like very, very real, right? So that's the whole 9 yards on that whole acquisition. The top 2 things that we chose was, we believed that we could do more being in Freshworks, and there's always a risk. Amazon would have been a very, very risk-free option, or Flipkart would have been like a much more risk-free option, because almost everything is given and it's like all cash, versus Freshworks is like a good majority of it was stock. If I were to do a logical decision, one of these big companies would have made sense. But over here, it was a company that was growing fast, a founder who was very trustable. That is what sort of pivoted the decision. And I think it probably was one of the best decisions that we could have taken. I mean, in hindsight, it proved to be like much, much, much more valuable than what we could have done as an alternative. So,
hey, Senthil, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Asha. Good to see you.
I have to tell you something. You've actually grown up.
Of course.
It's been so long that you are actually looking different now. You know?
Yeah, it's been 10 years, Asha. So.
Senthil, I wanted to ask you, I actually have a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever think of going public on the Indian market before going on Nasdaq?
No, because as many of you might have known, I'm still going to tell how the IPO part works, right?
Okay.
Unlike what we know, I didn't know this probably like 2 years back until I started closely working with my IPO team, right? So the general understanding of what happens when we go for IPO is that, hey, all the common public will come and buy your stocks, which is like say myth, right? 90% of the stocks are going to be bought by institutional investors, right? I'm just using random numbers. It's like a big chunk, so I'm just doing 90. It's not. It can vary from company to company. Only a 10% goes for people like you and me who are retail investors, right? So for this 90%, if they're going to put, if it's basically $500 million that you want to raise during the IPO, they should have an understanding of how to evaluate a company. And typically, a lot of tech companies in US, when you have to go for IPO, need not be profitable, right? They can still be like say cash flow negative. And there is a specific way by which you evaluate a tech company over a period of time. So the traditional way of doing, like say, discounted cash flow way of evaluating a company's health may not apply for a tech company. And for those reasons, there is a know-how that is involved in assessing the future potential of a tech company. And if I'm raising $500 million, and if I'm an institutional investor putting in $100 million, I will not feel confident without having seen this pan out to me in the last, like say, 5 or 10 different investments that I've done, right? So that know-how exists a lot in US. And for those reasons, it made sense for us to do this in Nasdaq. And second reason is, I think in India, you also have to be like say profitable to do an IPO too. And but the main reason is not that, right?
Is that true? But that's Chantal, that's very that's so unusual, right? That in India they are requiring you to be profitable when in the like in something as established as Nasdaq, they nobody requires you to be profitable, of course. So that's very interesting.
I
is
saw
that why?
I mean,
you think that's
probably
you think,
I'll have to check how if there are any specific clauses. At least until some time back, I've not gone deeper on how the whole dynamics work in India. But the main reason itself is all the PE funds who will. So essentially, what happens during an IPO is also this, right? Say 2 weeks before, you have something called a roadshow, right? 2-3 weeks or like say a month running up to the IPO. So you meet a bunch of hedge funds, you meet a bunch of pension funds, PE funds, and you theoretically do a new round of fundraising at that point in time, and sell a good amount of stocks in that 2-3 weeks. And during the IPO, it's these guys who basically sell it to the public markets, right? So let's take an example. Let's say I'm ready to give, let's say, 100 units of stock from 1,000 stockpile which I have for the entire company. So now this 100 units will be already purchased by another company. So it's as good as raising another round of investment from VC just 3 weeks or 4 weeks before the IPO. And during the IPO, it's these guys who will be selling to the public markets for other people. So who will be buying it? It can be retail investors. It can be people. Now, let's say if I want to split this 100 units to 10 people, I can only give, let's say, 10 each. Now, for whatever reason, if one of the people, let's say if it's a pension fund or if it's a PE fund, which wants to take a higher position, right? So they wanted, let's say, 20 units while they got only allocated 10. So now they, post IPO, they will say that, hey, I want, like, say, 10 more. Who is willing to give me? I'll give you, like, say, $2 more than the price in which we went for IPO. Right? So that's how the IPO demand is also raised. So on the day when you go live, the reason why the price is going up is also because of this. And why is that they want to do? They have seen the internals of the company during the roadshow on, like,
no, Senthil, I understand that. But what I'm curious is, why won't every Indian company go public on Nasdaq? Like, why did Oyo go public on the Indian stock market? Why? Because it just seems like it's a bad idea to go public on the Indian stock market. Why do it?
So there is also a couple of other reasons, Asha. A company with a majority of the customer base or revenue coming out of India is also one reason, wherein they are primarily domestic with presence or experimentation outside. So there is, like, say, now investors who understand the domestic market and how to, for example, if Kotak Mahindra or HDFC wants to do the pre-IPO financing, right? They will know how to evaluate when the domestic climate, right? That's one. Second, companies like Freshworks, from day one, we were international, and our customer base is split probably across, like, say, 120 or 150 odd countries, right? So that is where the know-how is more residing. It's because different people who have evaluated, let's say, a Snowflake as another SaaS company which is global in nature. They understand the dynamics of it better, and for those reasons, when you during the pre-IPO roadshow or during the run-up to it, there is, like, say, better demand that you can generate when the know-how, when your investors know what sort of potential and how I should be seeing it and all that. If they don't know, and if they take a conservative approach, and if you go in a market where the investors are not feeling confident, then you may not have a great IPO.
But again, let me ask you, Senthil. Like yesterday, I ran into somebody. You said that they don't even take a board seat on Indian companies because there are regulations that that criminalize board members if there was a break in a regulation, regulatory law, or if there was any mistake in a company. In a US company, you simply pay millions of dollars in penalty, but you never go to jail. You never go to jail. In India, apparently, you go to jail if something doesn't work out. So to me, it looks like it's inherently dangerous. And I'm wondering, Senthil, if you can play an active role in getting this conversation going in India, which is how do we change these laws, right? Some of these laws whereby a company can pay financial, penalty, but the leader doesn't have to go to jail.
In a way, I think it is also conservative because it's a growing economy. By keeping it closed, they have, like, say, better control over giving the benefit to a lot of Indian companies. Versus for a global business like us, pretty much this formula is like commoditized, right? Meaning we are theoretically, our sale is made out of our US entity. So this whole formula of how to run the company with, like, say, a Singapore headquarters, or, like, say, on paper, or with a US office, and then do this the transactional part of the financing and all that is a solved problem, Asha. I mean, it doesn't deter a company today or a startup originating out of India from growing big in any way, right? There are people who just do this for, like, say, $5,000-$10,000 as, like, say, a commoditized service, right? So in a way, yes, from a country's opportunity cost perspective, it could be detrimental, but from an Indian startup's perspective, it doesn't prevent us in any way from achieving our dreams, because this part is a solved problem. I hope I answered that.
Got it.
Yeah. So
other questions?
Yeah, I have very generic questions, like 2 questions, and going back to where you started. The first thing was that you said that when you are not a category leader, I mean, it becomes easier, to approach the clients or people. But do you see any drawback into that as well? I mean, when you are not one of the category leaders and you have kind of similar.
That's a very good question. I'm going to probably show you something to answer that. So the answer to that is, let me just. You choose very, very large markets. What I mean by that is some of the problems that we're dealing with because of the nature of the problem. See, let me just give you like a simple statistics, right? roughly 3,000 of the Fortune 5,000 companies are in US, right? And most of the big companies just deal with the Fortune 5,000 companies, right? So for example, a good amount of Salesforce's revenue itself is comes from the Fortune 5,000 companies. And by the virtue of it, it's only 5,000 companies that you're dealing with, right? Versus the opportunity, what I'm talking about is the mid-market and SMB, where the market is unimaginably big, right? What I mean by that is, in US alone, there are 6 million small to medium-sized businesses. In other words, for you to relate to this better, the car company, which makes the maximum revenue and profit in the world is not the Mercedes, BMW, or for that matter, Porsche or Lamborghini, right? It's basically the company with the largest profit is basically Volkswagen. The second is probably like Toyota and Honda and so on, right? It's because the market is so large that it gives you space for probably, few tens or few hundreds of players to even play and still make a meaningful revenue and profit out of it, right? So look at the difference. The Fortune 5,000 in US has 3,000, but the next segment has 6 million businesses. It's like in orders of magnitude big. So the answer there is, so this is how, for example, Freshworks works, right? We operate in 4 categories, and we predominantly focus on area 1, which is not focused by the mainstream player or the anchor player in that area. And we have a much deeper understanding of how the combination works. What I mean by the combination is understanding of the problem, understanding of how the product is connected, and how do you do your go to market in a repeatable, scalable way, right? So the simple answer is, if you choose a problem that is so big, and in B2B world, if the problem is also owned by a clear owner inside a company, which means if let's say all of your founders, right? Let's take the problem of getting an email for your company, right? All of you are going to get, you're not going to be sending emails from like something like nimi.washi@gmail.com, right? You will probably be getting, like, say, a custom domain for each one of your companies. So now let's take this problem. There are so many businesses which is just going to need website and email, right? Now, all I have to do is, I know as a matter of fact that the founder cares about this, and probably, it's a problem, it's a painful problem that they definitely have to solve for. Now, if there is this much amount of clarity on who owns the budget, and does the person have authority to make this decision, and is this a time-bound problem, right? If these three are clear, and if it's a large enough problem that you're chasing, the large enough nature of it gives you so much room to be the 50th player and still make $100 million in revenue, right? But if you choose a very narrow problem, then you probably have to be, there are also like other ways to look at it. There's a company called CareStack, which basically makes software for dentists, right? They just spent the last 4 years perfecting, going so deep and perfecting all possible workflows that will happen. The founder just spent 4 years just working in like dental studio, working with, like, say, a dentist on every single interaction which happens by different people inside this thing, right? So in this case, it's still a vertical opportunity. It's restricted, but you become so specialized that the next set of people is going to take a lot more time to catch up to it, right? So the thing is, think of by clarity of customer, this is what I mean, right? Is there a clear person who is owning the problem that you're trying to solve for inside a company? And is it a problem they want to solve in the next 6 months? And do they have the budget to solve it? If this part is clear, and if you're going behind a large enough problem, then you don't have to be a category leader. You can still play, and the market is unfathomably big for you to go and still make, like, say, a few $100 million in revenue.
Thank you so much. That clarifies a lot. Also, a very generic question again, like I think probably be the last question, at least from my end, is that a lot of us, like, who are building from scratch, or say if we want to build an IT or any kind of tech company, we have to hire a lot of people. I mean, hiring is a much bigger pain. And you said that, like, you had 4 sections. One is customer support. I mean, different, focusing on different other categories. So I mean, how and you have built companies previously as well. Yeah.
All these fellows, they behave very well. They're all quiet.
But who know it? Asha, I think your phone. Yeah. Sorry.
Team building, if you can, and I mean, in generic, I think all of us would face that problem, like, someday or the other. So anything on that would be helpful.
I have a very unconventional view about this, Anuba, right? So a startup, I would request you guys to go read this blog by Gusto's founder, or I don't know if it's a blog or, like, say, an interview that he gave. But you cannot compete with another big company trying to fight for the same set of people because they're going to beat you down by money, right? So you have to create something which you have to play to your strength in creating something which big companies cannot give, right? Or for that matter, another person cannot do. So as a startup, you have to invest on creating a story that is unique to you. I'll give you one example, right? The reason why why I didn't use Freshworks as a story is like, I think the credibility is better if I can use it with another this thing. So one of the good companies out there is like, say, Gusto, which is also like a HR software. And Gusto's founder used to talk about this, which is they wanted to create a company which feels like family, right? And which is close knit, where people are solving problems together. So one of the things that they established is when you walk into Gusto's office, you don't wear footwear, because the only other place where you'll do that is your home, right? So there's just a small example. It's not like such a big deal. I mean, it sounds very PR-ish, but it sort of goes and adds to the overall narrative that you have, that, hey, we are going to be like focusing on the problem, not on the person. And we are going to be working as, like, say, a tight-knit group of people on working on this problem. So, and they blew this out of proportion, right? And they basically, you walk in front of any Gusto office, you'll see that there's a huge footwear rack where you place your shoes or slippers before you enter the office, right? So this is a small example. I'm not trying to tell that you'll have to also repeat that, but a small example of being able to tell stories that only you can do, right? And you'll have to figure out what that is, right? And then once you put out the story, you'll have to cast your net wide. And as a founder, all of you should always be on the hiring mode, right? Until the company reaches at least, like, say, 100 people, it's the founder's responsibility to be on the hiring. And when I mean hiring, it's not just about interviewing, right? Whenever you get a chance to, you come across somebody good, you start at least seeding the relationship. And many a times you need the relationship before you need them, right? So start thinking of, you'll have to cut through the noise, because there are so many startups, there are so many companies. And for somebody talented, the choice is, like, say, umpteen. So you'll have to give them a reason on why they should join you. And once that reason is sort of frozen, and it can be whatever it is, you choose one or two anchors and blow it out of proportion, and then start, reaching out to people with this as a story, and they should have something unique to at least talk to you. You get a chance to talk to them, and then you should have clarity on what sort of problem that you're solving for, and at least, like, say, a quick plan and a reason that you can give them for them to join. And these are the reasons are not just salesy, hey, just come and join a startup. But it cannot be, like, say, very vague and generic. Build clarity and build insight, which they are not looking forward to get when they come and talk to you, right? And when they walk away with one or two things which they feel like, hey, wow, this was good, I feel that I can basically learn something from here, I like the culture, or I like the way, if it's basically a salesperson, if you have a specific aspect of the sales culture that you want to highlight as a part of the overall narrative or the story on what makes you unique. And if that person, he or she, likes that, hey, this is something that they want to relate to, then that's the way you cut down the noise and you make it a comparison of unequals. What I mean by a comparison of unequals is there is always somebody who's going to beat you down by giving a better salary. So you have to give an element of comparison which cannot be compared with salary, right? So fix what that is. And I can tell you hands down that in Philp, we never had problem hiring. In fact, we hired some of the best people that we could know because, and at that point in time, I was not able to articulate this in the way I'm articulating today. It was very natural and sort of a muscle memory. But today I'm able to articulate this in hindsight a little bit more better. But this is the formula that you have to be using as a startup to be able to, hire the kind of people that we want.
Definitely. Thank you so much for throwing light on this. I think this is useful for all of us, and we are all are building teams and really new people. So, I mean, thank you so much for enlightening all of us. This was, a great session, and thank you so much for sparing time and talking to all of us. And I'm sure, like, all of our fellows would be contacting you. I mean, all of us, we would be contacting you if we need any help.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much again for joining. And everybody is loving this session. Like there are so many comments in the chat as well. Thank you so much again. And we would be contacting you again, and we would be hosting you again and again at RCF, because more change makers are coming for you to guide. Thank you so much.
I see that there was another invite where I think Lakshmi is going to talk. Lakshmi is another person.
I was about to invite her right now.
So I'll probably hang around to hear her.
Senthil, when are you going to come again to the US? What's the plan?
I'm just planning to do once a quarter, Asha. So I'll probably keep you posted. It's sometime in Q1. I've not decided when, but I'll definitely keep you posted when I'm coming next.
Oh, that will be great. And where is the office, by the way, in the US? Where is Freshworks?
In San Mateo.
Oh, very good.
We have three offices, one in Denver, one in New York on the East Coast, but the main one is at San Mateo.
So why don't we, so the next time when you come, you must take me there,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Yeah. Because that would be nice, to go see a proper Indian company going public and,
Absolutely.
But what I'll do is one of these days, Senthil, I'll call you and we can, discuss a little bit more about this. I want to understand this whole, the market there, and we can talk about that later. I'll research it first.
Sure.
And then, good. Thank you so much, Senthil. And Chandni, who is coming next? Do we have something today?
Lakshmi is.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Hey, Senthil.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Lakshmi. Good to meet you again.
Yeah, I know. Fantastic, man. I could just give my time to you if you want. I can just listen to you for another half an hour.
I am waiting to hear what you're going to talk. I've always been a fan of all the work that you've done. So.
No, it's just so fascinating. I've, we hosted Girish before, and I've been following your journey. It makes us all extremely proud. So really, congratulations for
thank you so much.
All that.
Thank you so much. I think so many people helped us and helped me reach here, including some of you in this call. So I think it's attributed to all of them, and I'm just being like probably the vehicle. So
are you in Chennai now, Senthil? Are you in Chennai?
Yes, Lakshmi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, if you happen to come, please let me know. We should definitely.
Well, I'm in the Bay Area, right next to Asha. So when you come here, I'll come with you to the Freshworks office. Come soon.
Yeah.
So, Chandni, who all do we have next after Lakshmi? Who is the person?
We have Sanvar coming in today.
Okay, good. So listen, let me just go ahead and start an introduction, with Lakshmi. Of course, she needs no introduction. All of you know Lakshmi. But the reason that we have, the reason that I want to once again reiterate, that, let me just step out, hold on, I'm at my parents' house. I want to reiterate once again that this fellowship is about leveraging the relationships that we are all building for the next 20, 30 years, right? These are not, sort of people who come in and, give a talk, but important people that come and give a talk and then they leave. That's not our model. Our model is that of a long-term, close connection, a relationship as people, as we go forward for 20 years, 30 years, And in that process, as we see, our fellows are paying it forward, they're learning, they're growing, but they're also enabling and strengthening the ecosystem between India and the US. And this is of importance now, not just for economic reasons, It's important to us because even of geostrategic reasons now, for political, military, and geostrategic reasons now, it's critical that we have this relationship going. So in that context, Lakshmi Praturi, who is joining us today, is somebody who has been a serial entrepreneur from the Bay Area. She was here for a long period of time. Our children actually grew up together. And Lakshmi's vision was that if something like a TED can happen, where Lakshmi was an early, attendee and part of the DNA actually. Lakshmi's thinking again, just like how we are all thinking, like how do we contribute here? Lakshmi's thinking was that if there is such a fantastic organization like TED that can spread important and powerful ideas to millions of people, why can't we do something similar in India? And that for me and Rajeev was an extremely powerful motivation to join Lakshmi's journey. As we were sort of inner circle members from the get-go, and Lakshmi set up this entity in Bangalore, and the first TED happened in Mysore. But I think the most powerful thing that happened that I want you to know about and keep on your radar is that it has taken an extremely important activity that has had enormous network effects in the US to India and given back in a big way in India. And now there are TEDx's in every Indian city, and there are Inc. chapters in multiple cities and so on. So this kind of cross-pollination between US and India is critical. Similarly, I know that there are tremendous opportunities from India that can be brought into the US, where it will strengthen and accelerate multiple things in the US that can be brought from India. So that's the context in which we are speaking to all the people that are speaking with us today. So Lakshmi, why don't you start and tell us about your journey and what your plans are going forward? And thank you for joining us today.
Of course. So we were all there last night celebrating Asha's birthday. So it shows how much we love you guys that we are up this early to talk to you. And no, first I want to say it's, the thing I love the most is listening to others. So Senthil, it was amazing to listen to you. And, there are some things he said that really made me, it's a nice continuation, I think. One of the things he was saying is that how do you attract someone is the story you tell of your company, is the story you stand for. And that's really been my passion. One of the things we always, we all have in us is what is really my passion? Like we don't know, we keep looking for it, just to say, what is my real passion? And I think you can always find what your real passion is if you look at the last 10 years and see what's the one thing you've been doing the entire time. No matter what you've been doing. And that's what happened to me, in 2000, I was at Intel for 12 years. It's been I was a baby when I entered there, when Andy Grove was there and Intel Inside campaign was launched. And I've been part of such major journeys for Intel in its transformation. It went from a $3 billion company to a $35 billion company in the time I stayed there. So I've had the ringside view of that growth because I got to work with the CEO or the Gordon Moore, who's Moore's Law we talk about. I got to observe them. I mean, not as equals for sure, but as just a person who hung around with them. So the first lesson I learned when I worked in a big company is that, or actually in general in life, the first lesson I learned is you have to know, am I a marathon runner or am I a sprint? Am I for the sprint? It's one of the first questions you have to ask. And I look back and I realized I'm a marathon runner. I'm not a sprinter, and I'm one of those people who says crazy things. Like I look out of my window, I look at Mount Hood and say, I want to climb it. And I'm physically not fit. I can't even run a mile, but I'll figure it out. I will find the right group to, train. I went up once and couldn't finish it, came back and went back again. I just am one of those people who takes something huge and will give it the time it takes to do it. So I think one of the first questions, if you have to ask yourself, is which am I? And a lot of times problems come because we confuse the two. I cannot say I want to climb Mount Hood and say tomorrow I'll go and set a record. I just simply cannot say that. I can't say that if I say I want to sleep for 12 hours straight and set a record, and I know I can sleep as much as I want. So for a skill you already have, it's okay, but otherwise you have to give it the time to train. So the reason I'm saying this to you is that when I started my journey in India, I was very clear this was going to be a long haul. When I went there for the first time, when I decided to take TED to India, I just thought I'll go there for 1 year, host TED, and I knew that TED would take off. I mean, when we first went, nobody even knew what TED was. I would go to all the big companies and say, hey, I want to bring TED here. Will you help me? And they're like, why does Ted Turner want to come here? They thought Ted was a guy. I mean, they just didn't even know what it was. Now, mind you, this is in 2008, when TED wasn't that big a phenomenon yet. So I knew I had my work cut out for me. But even I was not prepared for how long it was going to take. I knew it was not going to be 1 year, but I thought maybe 3 year tops or 4 year tops. My son was 5.5 at that time. He was in kindergarten. I thought by the time he's in middle school, we'll move back to America. That was my thinking. And we took it on and we just said, hey, if you look at the global stage, Indian faces are not there on global stage. And I've been going to TED for 18 years by then, in 2008. And I was the only one who spoke at TED for 3 minutes in 2007, as of 2007. And I just said that was a travesty. I mean, it's not that my story is not great. It's just that there are so many stories from India that need to be told. And we Indians don't know how to tell our stories. And I realized that all along in my career, when I looked back, the story that I've been telling was actually not very powerful. The story I've been telling was very modest. You keep thinking that I shouldn't talk about myself. Somebody else should talk about me. We have this false modesty, and we say that my boss should know what I'm doing and give me the promotion. I shouldn't tell him or her that I did this, I did that, all these kinds of stuff. So the first thing I realized is each of us have to learn how to tell our story with equal amount of pride and humility. I think it's extremely important to be able to say it. That, if you're introducing yourself, we always start with how so many people have helped us. And, we have like 5 minutes of thanking everything except ourselves. So that's the first thing I learned. And I felt I really wanted to work with people across India to just work with them on telling their stories. I didn't know what shape it was going to take. It took the shape of the conference immediately because we did TED. I mean, literally 1,000 people came from 40 different countries, and Pranav Mistri's talk from TED became the first talk that went viral, like over 1 million views overnight. And Pranav became the head of research for Samsung just because he got so famous. Now, I can't take the credit for his brilliance or what he has accomplished. It's just a catalyst, And then Sunita Krishnan, who came and told her story, we raised enough money for her to have a home for her, women she rescues from prostitution. She wanted a permanent home. Her story was so moving that in that auditorium, we collected enough money for her to buy a 10-acre campus and build a permanent home for themselves. That's how powerful a powerful story is. And that started my journey. That Sunita Krishnan's experience started my journey to understand that if we can enable powerful stories on a powerful platform, where powerful people are in the audience who are change makers, we can make magic happen. So this is the first thing I wanted you to remember in this conversation is, what is your story and your company's story? Can you tell it in 3 minutes? Can everybody say it the same way? And I'm telling you, it's not easy. We've been around for 10 years. If you ask 10 of us, we tell 10 different stories about what Inc. is. We are still working on it because your story will keep changing, so you have to be with it. So number one, telling your story. Number two, as I said, the importance of the audience, because whenever we do something, we do a company, we think of ourselves, our team, but the thing you have to think about is who's your customer and who's your investor. These are the two of the most important things. Your audience matters because they make or break you, your future. So who chooses to invest in you and be next to you? Who chooses to receive your product? Actually, Senthil said it, that even if you're not a category maker, if there is a customer and they're willing to pay you for it, you still have a market, So the understanding the audience is extremely important, apart from understanding yourself. And the third thing is really knowing you can't do it alone. There is a whole community you need to build, be it the first movers. Like in our case, we have inner circle members. I mean, when I started this journey, literally 20 people wrote $50,000 check without no equity in the company, nothing. They just said, this has to happen in India. We need to tell Indian stories on a global stage. We believe in you. And that's what Asha was talking about. The first check, whatever crazy thing I did, my first check came from Rajeev and Asha, like no questions asked. They never even asked me, what are you doing with our money? Nothing, So you need to have that kind of a community that supports you no matter what. And don't confuse it with your parents and friends and people who are there for you to nurture yourself. But a community that unequivocally supports your mission at work. You need to have that community. They may not be your investors. They may not even be your board. This is the group of people you need to empower to be your ambassadors. They speak for you. So I don't need to talk about Inc. Asha speaks about that for me. So like that, you need to create a community that's important. So this is what I have learned in my journey. I mean, I've been for a dozen years, I was with Intel. Then I dabbled with venture capital for a couple of years. One of the best things that came out is my friendship with Asha, because we were the only two women VCs in a room in year 2000. So, and then I started my journey with philanthropic organizations. So we raised almost $30 million for various causes in India. And then I started Inc.'s journey. While Inc. started as the TED of India, we will tell the stories, it has evolved to something totally different today. For us today, it's about finding game changers and getting them to tell their story and working with them side by side to make their stories come true. So finding young game changers and helping them tell their story, putting them in front of right audience, etc. And now what we have evolved to is we have full-on leadership development program. Because one thing I realized after working in India for 10 years is that there is no leadership development per se. Most of the leaders get their exposure because they had the opportunity to travel everywhere else and see role models. But within India, there isn't, a great things to look out for, role models to look out for, learn from easily. Like when we have a platform where you can learn about an Arunachalam Muruganandam or somebody, it's easy. But otherwise, it's not easy because India is a young country. India's independence came in 1991 when our economy opened. So it's a very young country. So we need to learn from every possible source, and we need to have the kind of leaders that the entire world looks up to in a hurry. And that's really what we are committed to now, is have our platform build great leaders. So we are launching the kind of programs that will expose people to fantastic experiences through which they learn. So the final thing in the journey I want to leave you with is that you need to keep changing. change is the only constant. And this is the first lesson I learned at Intel from Andy Grove. This is his famous line. I was in a meeting. I was very frustrated because we had 3 reorgs in the 4 months I was there. And I was asking him, and he said, get used to it. Change is the only constant. So that's been my experience. And so I want to open it up for questions, and just chat with all of you.
Lakshmi, can you tell us a little bit about the, some of the pivoting that you guys might have had to do?
Yes.
That was kind of, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
ink has so much to do with face-to-face connections between people.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of pivoting did you guys do, and are you guys going digital in a big way?
Yeah, so basically, the day the lockdown was declared, actually it affected us in a huge way because we put all our eggs into one basket in January because we got a huge project that would have brought us almost 1 crore, that one project. So we dropped every project and went whole hog into it. And that was supposed to happen in April. It was an event that was supposed to happen in April. And so just guess what happened? Come March, everything shut down, event got canceled. Even to this day, we didn't get paid for the work we have done for the first 3 months. And we were just nothing. We had no work, nothing, and all the revenue went away literally overnight. 12 people on the roster. We just were caught, completely unawares. And the first thing we did, we still didn't know how we were going to solve the finance problem or whatever. Of course, we had some money to pay for a few months, but, we just couldn't see where the new business was coming from. So the day the lockdown happened, I talked to my whole team. I said, we need to understand what digital means. From literally the next day, and I am somebody, I'm not into social media at all. Like once a month, if I update my Facebook, it's a big deal. And my team said, let's do Insta Live. I just said, I want to just start talking to people. We need to do something digital. So we decided to do 2 programs every day for 60 days online. So we just said we'll do Insta Live programs 2 every day for next 60 days. One was dedicated to the pandemic. One was dedicated to just whoever I wanted to interview. We just said this is a great opportunity for us to just talk to as many people as possible. So literally for the next 60 days, next 30 days, every day we did 2 shows. One was on pandemic. We talked to doctors, veterinarians, writers, people who were running test labs, actors, actresses, sports people, food providers, hospital workers, you name it. We interviewed everyone. We created a platform for them to just come and tell their story. And every day, like anywhere from 1,000 to sometimes 10,000, sometimes 500 people would show up. Every day we did this. Then the second show was my interviewing different people. And we experimented. Every Monday I did my interview in Hindi, and my Hindi is atrocious, but still I wanted to do it. And one day I did a show in Telugu. And the other days we interviewed different people. So literally for 6 days, my entire team focused on learning something new. How do you do a show on it? I had no idea. My 17-year-old son was my teacher. He showed me how to get onto the Instagram, start Insta Live. He would sit with me every day when I did my show. Like when you have to bring in somebody, you have to do something to bring them in. When they finished, you have to do something to do it. And then he really was my teacher. Literally for 1 month, every day he sat with me for 2 hours, just making sure he helped me. So I just want to say that the first thing we did when we didn't know what was happening is we just jumped in. We said, let's learn this new thing in the most accelerated way. And, when the show was over, next day, we all talked, what worked, what didn't work, what do we need to do, etc. So that made us ready for digital. So when Intel came to us and said, hey, we really want to do a complete online conference, can you curate this for us? We were ready. We knew exactly how to do, who to go, what to do. And then we jumped on also. Salim Ismail was doing a big show for his group. And we said, we'll be the India partner for you. We just didn't know what it meant. We just jumped in and we learned how to host a whole conference online using Hopin platform and how the different rooms work. So we learned it at someone else's cost. We just focused on learning. So we were ready for projects. So then when companies came to us and said, hey, we really want to do this, we knew exactly how to curate it, how to line up people, how to interview them, etc. So we were ready for the projects that came. The second big pivot we did is we are no longer a conference company, no longer, just collecting stories. Our stories have to have a purpose. So we shifted. The big pivot we did was we are not a conference company. We are a leadership development company. And it's not even leadership development. It's about building personal brands for people. What's your story? That's what we want to focus on. So now we are working with large companies to say that you have great leaders. How do you keep them motivated within your company? Give 10 of them to us. And we put them through a 100-day expedition on finding their purpose while they're still working with you and living that, so that they stay indebted to you because they love staying here because they're able to do everything they want through the company. They can develop their personal goals also. So that's the big pivot we did. So number one thing we did, we just said, we don't know anything, but let's first learn this. And everyone learned it. And then we literally, I'm one of those people who said, everybody has to come to work every day. I did not believe in working from home. I was just like one of those people. In 10 days, we decided to shut our company. After 2 months, I could see that this was not going to change. So this, our shutdown happened in June, 3 months. I just said, we are going to close our physical office. It is one of the most emotional, difficult things I have ever done in my life. We literally went in 10 days. We shut everything, moved all the boxes, whatever we need to my house, sold off all the furniture. Literally, we just said, we have to get into the mindset of no physical space. We just have to get used to it. And so we did things very radically. And then, my neighbor said, I have a 6th floor office. The entire 3rd floor is free. Whenever you guys want meetings, just use it. Don't even bother. So things opened up for us. So we had to do something very radical, very big, very quick. But I do want to say, there's a big but in this. The decision we made to pivot takes some time. It cannot happen overnight. There are some people who believe in where you were going and you change and they don't believe in it anymore. You may lose some people. Or this is the time everybody goes through their own journey and says, what do I want to do? So you have to be willing to change everything, not just one thing. The team, the focus, everything you have to relook at. And
Lakshmi, let me have other people also ask the questions, because they're going to think you're addressing only my question.
That's it. So pivot is about radical change and changing everything. So.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Or I have few questions, but I want to give a chance to other people as I am hosting.
Who is the host today? Who's hosting?
I'm hosting. Anubha. Anubha is hosting right now.
Gotcha.
Nimi has questions, so we'll forward with, but I'll come back to my questions later. So Nimi,
sure.
You can go ahead.
I'm going to ask 2 quick ones. So the first one is that, and this is something I personally face. So I did my PhD in India, and up to that time, the entire narrative was let your work speak for you. And I think culturally we are that, right? As you clearly pointed out. Then I came here, like I am in New York City for my postdoc at Sloan Kettering, and they are spending $10,000 on postdocs just to tell their story differently. And the way and sorry, this is not like this the way an American would. This is no discrimination, but
right,
and they are like they call it harmless bragging, and then it's like all about how do you present yourself very well and tell the parts of the story without really going strong on it. But I myself had a lot of resistance to go to that stage. Like from here to here, I wouldn't just go. I was like, no, let my work speak for me. Oh, I have published this paper, it should speak for me. Why should I speak for myself? So when you encounter these, I think that, and this is just my observation, it should start from a very beginning, right? Probably when you are in high school or something like that. That is when you start changing that narrative. But on the other hand, the conditioning at home still remains the same. So when you're teaching people, right, how do you break this internal barrier to tell that story?
Okay. So it's a very simple way. First, you have to accept, and this is not just Nimi who asked. It's true for me. It's true for everyone sitting here. You have to accept that people cannot read your mind. This is the reason I moved to India to tell stories, because the entire Asian culture, and especially women, we have this thing of, oh, I don't want to tell my story. But really what we are saying is that you tell my story. We are making someone else responsible for our progress. Forever in my life, I wanted some mentor to show up who says, Lakshmi, you're so brilliant. Here, be the CEO of my company. Here is $1 billion for you to spend. Do whatever you want. I love you so much. You're so brilliant. Doesn't happen. You want something, you have to ask for it. And you have to learn how to ask for it nicely and also with persistence. You have to learn how to balance the two. You will make mistakes. There are people who will be turned off. This one calls every other week. It's okay. You'll make your mistakes. But make it a priority to ask for what you want. This is what breaks relationships. We have a whole slew of movies to prove. So many movies, I feel, if only you just asked him if he received the letter or not, this whole movie would have been saved. You write a letter, the guy didn't read the letter, thinking you don't like him, you don't think he likes you because he didn't respond. The whole movie, like 60 years have passed, you talk to each other when you're dying and say that, oh, I never received the letter. I just am like, pick up the phone and call and say, did you receive the letter? Right? So, and the thing is, we are fed this in our culture. Every stupid movie is about this, unspoken thing. And so first of all, we each have to get off our high horse and just understand, you want something, you ask for it. Otherwise, you don't get it. You know what? 90% of the time you ask, you may not get it. But the 10% of getting it is worth 90% of not getting it. But one thing for sure will not happen if you don't ask is you will not get it. That is guaranteed for you if you don't ask. So you just have to get off. We all have this thing of, I want someone else to recognize me. Won't happen.
Thank you. Very important. And you touched the DNA of it, if I may. Thank you so much for a very honest answer.
Sure.
My question is when you come back to India and then trying to pitch an idea of TED and similar things in India, and most of the people in India they may not understand what you're telling, or people might be say that okay, this is only work in US, it's not work in India. Like people always say that it works in US, not in India. So there might be a lot of iteration went and you got disappointed, what we are trying to do something, but people are not even doing it. So how you handle your mind, there might be a thought, okay, I'll go back again, why I am doing this. How you handle that period, initial 3 months, 4 months period?
Yeah. Why initial 3 months, 4 months, my initial 10-year period, I still go through that. India is a tough country to do business in, because in India, everybody wants everything free. Nobody wants to pay for quality. This is the epidemic we have in India. And especially when we did, but the other problem is they're willing to pay for it if it's somewhere else. If it's a Gucci bag, they will pay 1 lakh without questioning. But if it's an artisan who made the purse selling it for 50 rupees, they want to bargain it down to 25 rupees. This is just an epidemic we have. So I think the first thing you need to do is find the 5 people who appreciate your quality. You need to build that system around you. And then you have to make a decision. Maybe initially you have to sell to somebody who appreciates it outside India and then come to India. Maybe. So then it depends on what your business is. I mean, we've been doing this for 10 years in India. We are a conference that charges $1,000 a person to come to our conference, plus their airfare and stay and stuff. This is unheard of in India. In India, conference, and if people say, first of all, am I a speaker? They'll come only if they're a speaker. Number 2, if they get a free pass. These are the 2 things that they will not change. But we stuck to our guns, and now we have a community of 300 to 500 people who pay this kind of money every year and come, and they value what we bring. And what we decided is that we will affect 1 billion people, but it's through this 100 or 200 people, not by trying to convince 1 billion people to come to our conference. So our strategy is, it's more a ripple effect. It's a smaller group of people, and through them we'll accomplish bigger things. So you have to make adjustments. India will not adjust to you. You have to adjust to India. That's what you have to first accept. And you can, the greatest idea from the rest of the world, I mean, even McDonald's had to have 2 kitchens, one for veg, one for non-veg. It's just, you have to fundamentally change what you want to do for India. You cannot take something and apply it here.
Yeah, thank you.
Completely agree. Anushka, you had a question.
Sure. Hi, Lakshmi. So I have been obsessed with TED Talks for ages. I think I have watched like more TED Talks than I watched Netflix or Amazon Prime, I think. And I think I loved it because I think it's a very good way to inspire people or like talk about the causes you actually believe in. And especially the ones on sustainability, climate change and all really intrigue me a lot. And I have been applying to TED Talk, I think twice. I've done it, not a TEDx, TED Talk, because I thought every year they take around a couple of Indians nowadays. And I was like, I can be that one. But obviously I was not accepted last 2 times. So what I've seen in that is it's not about the company or journey which they want to talk about. They want to talk about some idea which you have. And generally, they don't want to have like a template on how I grew up and all that. So picking something out of your company or picking something out of like a cause out of a company and putting it out there, that is very challenging for me because I'm used to talking about my company journey and all that, but not about picking an entity out of it and then talking about it as a cause, So how do you just like kind of segregate your cause and the company separately and just talk about the cause and then submit your application? So if you can touch a few 4 points on how my chances for selection can increase.
So I'll tell you one thing, when a scientist starts their work, they never start by saying, I want to win the Nobel Prize. Okay. They have to do their work for 20 years, 30 years. And then if it's the right thing, it'll be recognized. Okay. So it's the same thing about, you should first start watching Ink Talks also. And
I do watch them.
And the other thing is you have to learn how to up-level yourself, that it's about an idea that's unique. It doesn't mean it's an idea that impacts 1 billion people or anything of that sort. I mean, there was a 3-minute talk about how to tie your shoelaces in the most interesting way. So it's not about, high idea, but it's about, can you up level it from you and your company to have an idea that people would find interesting, So when you say, I want to give a TED Talk, and again, I'm not picking on you. I thank God I gave a TED Talk before there was a thing called I want to give a TED Talk. It doesn't matter. I want to give a TED Talk. I want to get a Nobel Prize. I want to get an Oscar. Doesn't matter. Want to get a Grammy, whatever it is. If that is your destination, you'll never make it. That should not be your destination at all. Your destination should be, what is an idea that I can present to the world in the most unique way? That should be your journey. maybe if you up-level your company 10 times, it must represent something that you want to change out there. And why do you want to change it? Is it a personal story that's driving you to change it or whatever? I mean, when I gave a talk, mine was about the art of storytelling, the art of letter writing, the forgotten art of letter writing, because I missed getting letters from my dad. That's what my talk was about. Nobody writes anymore. There's nothing earth-shattering about it. It's just what I felt. So either it is something you feel or it's an idea that somebody says, wow, that's interesting. You know, so actually remove your goal as giving a TED talk.
I feel actually I just feel it's a platform through which you can reach so many people and talk about a cause, and your company progress becomes it catalyzes, right? So if you
that's what I'm saying, you have to remove that from your head. As long as you think it'll benefit your company, that's why I want to give this talk. They will never pick you, because they can see it's about transaction. It's about your company. It cannot be about a transaction. It has to be a bigger idea that even if your company doesn't benefit, what does letter writing got to do with my company? Nothing, right? So you have to have an idea that's worth spreading that may not benefit your company at all. In fact, they are all of us have listened to it all the time. If we feel it has anything to do with the company, we don't even pick that person. You cannot even refer to the company. No selling from stage, no talking about what you do from the stage. So it's actually a hindrance for you if you think it'll help your company.
God, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go quickly to the questions because
I'll be very quick in my answers now.
No, I mean, there are so many people who are relating to you. I mean, so many people wants to ask questions. So Abhijit, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Lakshmi.
Hi.
When you spoke about false modesty, it really struck a chord. My father retired just a few days back, and I was watching his retirement ceremony, and everybody was saying nice things about him. And then when his turn came to speak, he spoke like for 10 minutes about his boss instead of speaking about himself or his journey. It was quite funny. And I mean, I get it. And I've met you a few times and I've seen you speak, and I see you speak now. And also another example I have is Raghava, very good friend of mine. And one thing I always notice, and it makes me very jealous, is I'm a decent speaker. I can speak on stage, no problem, and I can do a very good job of it. But it feels like an effort. It feels like, that every time I have to go and perform. Whereas I don't know if it's true or not, but when you're speaking, it feels like it's sort of effortless. It's how you speak, even if you were brushing your teeth. So is this true, first of all, or am I just imagining things?
No.
And if it's if it does get that effortless with time, what kind of help I can find in that sense?
See, I think I found there are two things. One is you first have to forget what others might think. A lot of time when you said it's perform, our biggest fear is, will other people like it or not? First you have to forget about it. I mean, it's like, this is what I am. If you like it, great. If you don't, it's okay. You have to really be okay with it. That I make a fool of myself all the time. When I go up, I may forget something, I may say the wrong thing. But if I'm authentic, so the number one thing is you have to trust you're being authentic, and whatever others say, it's okay. And if you don't know something, say, I don't know. Don't fake it. Because if there's one thing the audience pick up is fakeness. Just be yourself, and sometimes it's saying, I don't know. I mean, I'm telling you guys, in 10 years, I still haven't made it, so to speak. So it's okay. You don't need to be perfect all the time. So I think if you can just accept that, it doesn't matter what they think of me, but I have something to say, and this is what it is. And the second thing is practice. Just keep, anywhere, high school invites me, I used to go and talk. I mean, the more you talk, the more comfortable you become.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abhijit. Sandhya, you are next.
Hi,
Sandhya,
Lakshmi.
you and I talk a lot, so ask very quick questions.
Okay. First thing I would like to say before asking the question, maybe if I did not ask you or request you for first time, maybe I may not be here. And
Yeah.
like whatever I speak now because of ink only, right? And the
Yeah.
question I would like to ask you about is like I used to attend your sessions regularly when you used to do, because every day you will have lot of work. You are at home that time, but how did you manage to do that for many months? And mostly the thing is, I loved your Telugu sessions so much.
Yeah.
So tell me, how did you manage the things, and every day how did you do that?
I don't know. It's like brushing teeth. You get up every morning and brush. You just have to say, this is what I'm doing. I mean, there is no, we never thought about, actually, you know what? Sometimes we have something called analysis paralysis. If we actually sat on March 23rd and we said, oh my God, doing 2 shows every day would mean we need to do this many hours. I have to learn how to do Insta Live, this, that. We would have never done it. We just got up and said, we got to do it. And we just figured it out every day. I mean, there were some days I'm like, I just don't want to talk today, but we already committed out there. And, I don't want to get dressed every day, so then you learn hacks like just put a shirt on. You don't need to worry about, just put a chunni on. Like I had for the longest time, black t-shirt and 50 different chunnis. Like I just wouldn't even think of what to wear every day. So you just have to say, I'm going to do it. And then figure out how, as opposed to analyze this and say, oh my God, can we really do it or not? Will we? I mean, we at the end of 60 days, we looked back and said, were we insane to do it? You just have to say, when you say I will do, you have to figure out how to do it. You can't back out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And have a great team.
Shashwat.
I mean, that's where you got to have a team that's with you also, like who are all like, okay, let's just do it, because everybody was sitting at home going nuts. So we were like, yeah, let's just do it. Okay.
Great answer again. Shashwat, you are next. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi, Lakshmi. It's great to hear you speak and your journey from TED to Ink. We met very briefly in Bombay once at Samyak's place, but I think it was a very brief interaction.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I have a very quick question for you, and I'm not sure if there's an answer to it or not. But the question is, what's the biggest story about India which Indians don't know, in your opinion?
Oh God, everything about India, Indians don't know. I will tell you our history, the stories that are there from our history, the stories that are there from our scriptures, the stories, just our historic sites. There are, which city do you live in?
Bombay.
Bombay, okay.
I grew up in Bombay, but now I'm in the US. So
okay, so take Bombay, for example. I am sure there are at least 2 locations you can think of that the world doesn't know. There are most amazing locations in Bombay. Maybe it's the best, that, what is that, Batata Vada Pav shop near Prabha Devi or something. I mean, if there is one place that is undiscovered, it is India. We need always someone else from outside to come discover it, and then we discover it. I mean, thank God for some Americans that discovered yoga. Otherwise, we would have still called people who do yoga crazy. So we always have someone else discover it. I mean, chai is today, turmeric chai sells for $5. So I'm just saying that if there is one country where there's a treasure trove of information that's undiscovered, it is India, because we are always looking elsewhere for inspiration. We are not looking within ourselves. We want, I mean, let me, okay, this is an experiment. Let me do this, but I may have given away. If I said to you, honestly, who's the one person who you would like to meet? Just like shout out your answers without thinking. A person who's alive. Don't say,
Musk.
Okay, Elon Musk. Just 2 more questions, 2 more, just quickly.
Ratan Tata.
Ratan Tata. Okay, what else?
I'm going to say someone who's not alive, but I still want to say it because I just read his book. It's Vikram Sarabhai.
Okay, no, don't say somebody who's dead. Tell me who's alive.
Alive.
Okay, Michelle Obama, Christopher Nolan. Okay, fine. I've read all these things. I do this all the time. Okay. And 90% of the names are people who are extremely successful, not just moderately successful, extremely successful. Yeah. Whether it's Ratan Tata. And 80% of the names are non-Indian. It's Elon Musk, it's George Clooney or Christopher Nolan or whatever. We don't even know the names of people in India who are doing great things you would like to meet. We just don't even have that. So how can we discover what's around us if we don't even know the people who are doing amazing things? I mean, nobody says the sabziwala who does the most innovative thing in my neighborhood, I actually want to go sit with him or her and find out how they do it. We are not looking around us for the stories. We are looking for someone else, 90% who's not in India. And if it's India, it's either somebody political, somebody sports, or even in business. It's like Ratan Tata, Mukesh Ambani, like the billionaires. How come people don't say Girish Mathrubootham or Sridhar Vembu? Like it's just in the conversation we had today. So I think we've been conditioned since the time we are kids somehow to look to the West for innovation. And it feeds into the thing of Westerners very good at telling their stories. If you look on the internet, whose stories do you see mostly? You don't see many Indian stories. So it's a chicken and egg thing. So I think there's a lot, my God. I mean, I just feel India is never ending. I mean, for the next 100 years, we can discover things that have not been discovered in India.
Thank you. It is a very abstract question, but that's a great answer. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Kashyap, you want to go next, and then Aditya after Kashyap.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lakshmi. It's absolutely a pleasure, hearing you. And I miss your, you started Clubhouse, and then you stopped it. That was one thing. I put on a notification, and a very dear friend of mine, which I was having a conversation that how TED India got pulled up. His name is Deepak Ramola.
Oh yeah, I know Deepak very well. Yeah.
He mentioned about you, and then I looked up your website, and what amazing work you are doing, and then I learned that you joined Clubhouse, and I was after you in different rooms, and following the Insta and everything.
Yeah.
So a great journey and such a learning, and maybe I wish if we can have a full day workshop with you, Ma'am Asha, if you can arrange one, because storytelling is something that we all need to learn.
No, actually we do. I mean, that's the kind of things we are now putting out. As I said, we do a 100-day expedition. We will also start a 1 day and 1 day and also 3-day storytelling workshops. We are going to start all those from next year. These are all the things this is our pivot. So these are the things we are offering. So people can learn it virtually, and then at the end meet at a physical location when it opens up. But thank you. We will start something in Clubhouse. I just didn't want to start something haphazardly. We just tested 1 or 2 things just so we understand. So in about a couple of months, I want to roll out like a total program on Clubhouse. I don't want to do onesie twosie. I just want to say, my thing is, we're calling it Lakshmi's Lounge, and I just say it's like breakfast with Lakshmi or something, where we bring different people once a week. Like I want to get into that kind of a rigor with Clubhouse, because it's a very powerful platform, but you need to do it very regularly. I don't want to do it just haphazardly. So thank you for that. And I hope, Chandni, we can send emails to all of them when we start doing our things, so you can be part of it.
thank you so much. Looking forward to
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
And I funded 2 of the platforms. Life at Lahore, that was founded during Corona. And exactly, we started featuring artists, exploring new talent from Lahore. And at Clubhouse, I made a lot of global connections.
Yeah.
I learned about, Clubhouse, and I was looking for an invite. And
Yeah.
and I ran that club for many months now. And
Wonderful.
it has quite a following now. Better
Yeah.
Pakistan is the name.
Yeah, maybe you should just invite me, so I will come to your Clubhouse session, and that's a good way for me to get familiarized with the platform and stuff before I start jumping into it myself.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aditya. You can go.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Lakshmi ma'am. Actually, one of the incident I have very real and close to me is one of the person I know as a close friend has given an ink talk on your platform. His name is Gadadhar Reddy.
Of course,
he's a
ink fellow.
He's a founder of he is a founder of this Nopo nanotechnology.
Correct.
So how I came across this, I was in a boot camp with him, and I asked him why the name Nopo.
I know.
And he told me that it's because everybody told me not possible.
Yeah.
And that blew my mind. I was like, is he crazy? Why somebody named something where he want to get associated for years to be on this something? And then he told me that there is a story to it. And I kind of Googled it. I saw his ink whole video. And that's why I realized that how ink is different is you don't have to achieve something to get there. You have to be basically a initiator of something, and that's the platform is giving you to scale it up. And that made the whole difference to me. And that's a very close story, and that made me realize how ink is different. And then after that I follow many of the ink talks and many of the places. So that's just an observation. I don't have any question. That was one story which was very close to me. And thanks to other thing is you are very fluent in what you are as a telling in terms. I do also want to have one of the sessions I can have with you, so that one of the things which we personally think is want to build on is to storytelling, because I personally got recommendation from many of the places that you are doing a work into waste management, you are doing a work which is into a social impact plus an economic impact. You have to tell your story in such a way that it makes the maximum impact, and that's not in an Indian level. I got this recommendation at a London, where I was attending one more basically a fellowship program, and I was like, why we Indians are like, हम सालों से पिक्चरें दिखाते आ रहे हैं, story बोलते आ रहे हैं, हमें क्या कमी है? And then I realized that the actual storytelling is way different than what we used to see in Bollywood movie. It's not like that. And
because in Bollywood we'll be telling the same story.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I was laughing when you told me, when you tell this first joke, the letter one. The letter just call and ask, did you receive? And I was like laughing out of my. So that's one of the things. I do want to have one of the sessions if that can be arranged. That's
see, this is a big shift for us. Also, we'll be like I used to do these things all the time for people. But one thing I realized is we have to inculcate a culture of paying for quality in India. So before we just used to do these workshops, now we'll be giving them out from next year on. We'll be rolling these out where we put a fee to it, and we want people to be very serious about this kind of a thing. So we ourselves are changing in terms of we have to ask for what we are worth out there. This is the biggest problem we all have. We never ask for our worth. We just say that, oh, how can I say that? It's okay. Of course you can come for free. Of course I can give you 5 hours of my time. But we never put value on our time. So this is something I personally am learning how to do it. And I mean, there are some that are priceless. I mean, as I said, Rajeev and Asha have been part of my DNA, part of Ink's DNA. They co-founded this company. So when Asha says, hey, come talk to my fellows, I don't measure like 5 hours or 2 hours or my rate is this. Of course not. There are things in your life for which they're priceless. But then for everything else, there is a price. And you have to learn to ask for it. So that's the shift we are going through, to learn to say, which are the things we'll do for the brand where we don't charge, it just builds our brand. Which are the things for which we say, hey, if this is important for you, pay for it, So we are learning that. It's very difficult, trust me, but we are learning that.
So anyway, if we can get some kind of notification.
No, absolutely. No, we will be doing it. And I want to do it properly because it's, like I talked this, but when we do an 8-hour workshop, like 2 hours every day for 5 days or something of that sort, it's a very different learning, a very different discipline. Right. So we will be rolling those out. And we want to be again, once we roll out, we want to be able to do it every 3 months or every 2 months. And we don't want to do it haphazardly. So we have done some workshops, we have collected data, we have collected recordings, and now we are putting it into workshops.
Lakshmi, is this a workshop for speaking that Aditya is talking
storytelling,
about? Storytelling, Lakshmi, when you do your workshop for storytelling, let me and Chandni know so our fellows can sign up,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You're the first people I'll come to. And that's why I was telling Chandni that, when we are ready, I hope you can let everybody know we are doing this kind of a thing. Yeah. From January on, we'll be rolling out those courses.
So
it's not courses, we call it workshops, interactions, we'll bring different people to tell. It's not just me, there'll be other things also.
So there is one, Lakshmi, I think on the Acumen Fund website, they have these workshops that they have, that they are offering, okay? This Acumen Leadership or Fellowship workshop or something that they are offering might be worth looking at. I'm not sure, for our fellows also, something to look at. I think they're paid courses. And Lakshmi, for us at Inc. also, it's not a bad idea to tape these and offer them at a fee, for the long haul,
Yeah.
And then
actually, you're absolutely right on, Asha. That's what we are doing right now. So this Inc. Future Makers program we are rolling out, it's at a very high end, in terms of it's a 100-day expedition, like every week for 1.5 hours, you do this. There's a curriculum, there's all sorts of things, but that's at like a 2.5 lakhs a person. So companies are signing up their people for that. And then we place them in different places to talk. So it's at a very high end. And at a very reachable end, we'll be launching these online courses where it's like for 4 weeks, you spend 2 hours every week. And there'll be work, things you have to do, come back, and at the finale, everybody gives their 3-minute talk kind of a thing.
So for this GIC program, Lakshmi, this GIC program that you guys might be launching in a short while, is
actually the GIC program, Asha, is very different than what I'm talking about.
Oh, I see.
Even after the IFM program we have is all the things we do for them. Then GIC is even more expensive than that. So IFM is our own program that we are launching, and we are starting with a batch of 25 people. We have 10 already signed up from a company, and we are rolling it out. So the first, we are starting in January. It's like for 13 weeks, every week, 1.5 hour kind of a thing. That's the one we are rolling out in January. And then in January, we'll also roll out our short courses. And then GIC will be on top of it. If people
will that be virtual? Your IFF program would be virtual?
Yes, virtual. We are saying at the 13th week, we will do in-person gatherings in whichever cities, at least in 1 or 2 major cities. If people want, they can come. But that's a virtual platform. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So we want to reserve some spots, Lakshmi.
Yeah, I will send you. We are just finalizing we are creating the brochure this week for it. And I mean, even before we created the program, 10 people signed up. So we had to hurry creating the program, for that. So it was a good problem to have. But this week we'll have the brochure out and I'll send it to you, Asha. You can look at it. We just wanted to have I mean, it's literally like week 1, week 2, week 3, it outlines what you get out of it. What do you need to do? It's very crisp and there's a lot of homework. So we tell people, unless you can commit to this, don't sign up. Because if you miss 2 sessions, you're out. You can't do it. So that's what we are creating.
Right? And what would be the process, right? Filtering process. Will you be taking, I'm sure you're going to have a tough filter.
Yeah, but for the first 25, we are doing it. We are sending to only people we know. We are not opening it up online, etc. Because as I said, out of the 25, 10 are already signed up, and another company wants to give us 5. Another company already given us 5. So we are at already 18 right now. So I will send it to you. We will give it to only people, our inner circle members, our people we work very closely with. Say, hey, do you want to nominate 2-3 people in the first batch? Because the first batch has to be super successful, and then everything else will follow. They have to be very committed and sort of people. So I'll send it to you as soon as we have it. And so I'm talking to, we have people from Google, we have people from Accenture, from Intel, we've just taken it up to corporations, and then we tested it out with them. Do you think this would work? And even before we had a program, somebody signed up with, they said, yeah, we want it, whatever the program is. So now we are scrambling to put the program together, because they already sent the money and said, we want our people to be part of this. So we can see there is a need for this right now. So we are only 25 people in the first batch. I'll send that thing to you. It'll be good to get some of the people into it.
Yeah, Siddharth, you have a question.
Hey, Siddharth.
No question. Hi, Lakshmi. Just wanted to tell you hi. That's all.
Hi,
always
good
inspiring to hear you.
No, it's good. Asha always picks the best people. So Chandni, I have a request for you. I would love to know what each of them is doing. So if you ever have a session where each of them is for 2 minutes talking about their project, or if you have recorded it, please send it to me, because I'd love to know who each of them are, the ones I don't know, and what they are doing.
Anuba, this is a great idea. Anuba, would you be interested in creating a video with simply just boom, 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 just alphabetically, all the fellows, 2-minute videos, put it all in one file and send it to me, Anuba?
Yeah.
Yes, I'll do
that. That would be great. I think Chandni may not be here today, but I can see. Oh, you're here. Okay. So yeah, but I'm giving this ownership to Anuba, because I know you're swamped, Chandni. But Anuba, why don't you create this little video, put it all in one file? So because there are many people like Lakshmi who want to see it, but they don't want they don't want to be sitting. See, if it's 30 people and 2 minutes, that's 60 minutes. I think that's too much. Let's do 1 minute each.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think if you can just do a WordPress page, put everything there and send people the link, that would be fantastic.
So
I'm just saying that just put in that Fellows 2021 and just go there. I can, because before, as a speaker, I would have loved to look at it before I came.
We did share the brief fellow profiles as a document with the email.
Yeah. No,
So
I'm just
Chandni,
saying Yeah,
Chandni, is there any way that we can, Lakshmi, you're saying it should be.
I'm just saying a 1 minute video, because even to read something, I'm sorry, but sometimes honestly, I didn't even see there was an attachment to it. So because we're all,
I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, for every fellowship, you can say to come in, the minute you come in, you just do your 1 minute video and just put it in that tab, 2021 fellows, and send that link to people and say you can listen to the videos. But now I'll go back and read the document for sure. And
actually, Chandni, can you resend it to Lakshmi so she has it? By the way, it's not, this is another learning from this is that before the speaker comes on board, send it to them on multiple channels, right? WhatsApp, maybe WhatsApp a link, maybe, send it on phone, send it on email. Once again, just hours before they speak, just because, nobody has the time to go back and filter through emails. and open an attachment.
And also make sure if you're working with their assistants, tell the assistant, because if you told Elsie, she would have made sure I read this document before I came.
I think Lakshmi was coordinating from Inc.
Correct. Yeah, Lakshmi. Yeah, that's Lakshmi Changappa was coordinating. Just tell her that, hey, I need Lakshmi to read this document before she comes. If you just tell her, then she will make sure she'll remind me that, hey, read it. I'm just telling you, these are, we are all lazy people, to be honest. So,
no, I think also very busy, I think we're just so wildly busy. I mean, yes, so exhausted.
Yeah, so many things going on that you are not giving 100% to the things. So sometimes you need to be reminded, like every morning, Elsie, my assistant, calls me at like half an hour before the meeting. And she's like, did you do this? Did you do that? Because sometimes I forget. So just if you work with the assistants and make sure you tell them that, because if it's buried in the long mail, we miss it. So just the subject should be, please read this before the meeting. Just make that the subject, then I know I have to read it.
Yeah, that is such a good idea. Yeah.
Definitely. And we can also work on the video. I mean, just introducing the class.
I think it's a good practice for all of you. And I'll tell you.
Sorry, but just one thing. Chandi, don't we have videos of everybody?
We do. We have longer videos. They're not very concise. So we'd ask for actually a 1-minute video, and we can actually do like a testimonial now with every fellow. So it has more details in it.
So 60 minutes, okay? 60 minutes per person.
No, 60 seconds.
60 seconds per person, okay? And put it all in one file, Chandni, and send it to me, please. You and Anubha work on this together, but let me have it in the next day or two. Okay, so I can send it to all the people as I send them thank you emails and so on. Because this is a way for us to keep our speakers warm,
Yeah.
So my suggestion, as you guys are doing the videos, 3 things, please remember. Number 1, don't start it with, I am so-and-so, this is my company. Just put it in a text on your name. Start with a bang. Do you want to change the world? Blah, blah. I got an answer for you. Even like, be dramatic. Your opening should grab my attention. So don't start with your introduction. Let that be in text format. And, to be concise means you cannot give 10 messages very, very quickly in 1 minute. Pick one message you can give, and that's all you can give. And the third thing is focus on the bigger picture. Out of the 60 seconds, spend 20 seconds on the bigger picture before you dive into what your company does, that is your dramatic opening.
So to follow up on what Lakshmi just said, here is an example. All of you, okay? As you create this 60-second video, I'm just going to pretend that I'm Nimi Vashi, right? So I'm not going to start with, I'm a postdoc. Okay, hi, I'm Nimi Vashi. I am interested in, creating, or actually I am interested in creating a mega fund that's going to be funding specifically things in these neurosciences development and pushing the frontier, creating a new paradigm in so-and-so area, right? Let's say in the biofeedback or whatever it's called. And then say, I'm currently at Sloan Kettering as a postdoc, and I'm working with XYZ, and this is where I see myself heading in the future or something. But something like that, Nimi, where you are weaving in the fact that you're a postdoc, but don't start with the fact that I'm a postdoc. You can say that this is my vision and this is who I am. And it automatically.
And Asha, what I'm saying is you're absolutely right. Give the vision first, but don't even say I'm Nimi Vashi. That when your video comes a beat on text, Nimi Vashi, postdoc, Sloan Kettering. Just put that as a big thing that maybe stays on somewhere at the bottom as you're talking.
Actually, that's a good idea. Yeah. Just keep it as, it should be on the video.
Yeah.
So that they don't have to try and remember your name. It's there.
Correct.
It is staring at the speaker from the get-go. Anubha,
so you want to do two things.
Two
things. Whoever is creating the video, you want to do when you create this video is that the name of the speaker and what they do is in the bottom left or something, not intrusive of their face. You put it on the bottom right. You put Rajeev Circle Fellows logo somewhere small, watermark, very transparent watermark. So every video that comes, your print is there on it, but a very subtle watermark. So everything has Rajeev Circle and the name of the person there. Start off, I mean, as Asha said, start off with, there is gabillion, this is the amount of work that needs to be done in neurosurgery. And what I'm excited about is how we can use the brain to, cure Alzheimer's. So this is what I'm doing, and what I'm looking for is, what I'm excited is to find the right team to be able to do XYZ. So what do you want out of the audience? Also, you should subtly weave in without making it a sales pitch, but just be very honest and say, I need this. This is what I'm looking for. I just started my journey. I'm looking forward to finding all the investors and the team to take it to the next level. One line, this is what or it's like, I'm so excited because we found all the right team and we raised our angel fund and we are on our way to make this big. And I'm looking for ideas on where to sell our product, because this is not a TED talk. This is about yourself, where people you listen need to know what you need. So it's okay to say that.
Nandita, your next question, and then we have our next speaker.
No questions. Just wanted to say hi, hello.
Hey,
I don't want to take up the time. Good to see you as well.
Yeah.
I don't want to take up anyone else's time, so I'm sure people are waiting to ask you questions.
Yeah.
So if anyone else doesn't have any questions, so I would just ask away, and because next speaker has already joined, but I won't take much of your time as well. So the first thing is that as we see Inc., you were saying that you needed a platform for Indian storytellers. I mean, you wanted to tell stories of Indian people, but yet it has a very global approach.
Yes.
When we look at Inc., it is very global kind of vibe that it gives. So I mean, how I don't know if this is the right question, but how did you achieve that? I think that always fascinated me about Inc. First thing. So I would want to know about that. And also how important do you think is experimenting? Because I related to the point where you said everything was shut down, and again experimenting and people leaving and revenues. I mean, I faced all of that because I ran NPO in India, and I mean, all of it happened. So whatever you were speaking, it was giving me goosebumps. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I think these two are the things, although I had more, but I mean, I would just ask these two questions. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, great. So Anubha, one thing I want to say, I really want to congratulate you. You did something that a true leader does. You are moderating the session, but you let others ask the questions first and you ask last. That is really a commendable thing you have done. So I really want to congratulate you about how graceful you have been in hosting this. It's really, really great to see. I wouldn't have done it. I would have been like, let me ask my questions and then I'll open it up for everybody else. So I'm learning something from you. So that's really, really beautiful. I want to thank you for that. How did we make it global? See, for us, from day one, we never thought of India in isolation. It was always that it was about how do I open up the imagination of the people in India. I never thought about it as it's for Indians, by Indians, ever, And to open up the thought, if the best person to talk that was wherever they are, we brought them, because I think it's important for us to learn from the best. And then from the best Indians also, because the best Indians don't know how to tell their stories. So we always had, even when we had our fellows, it was 80-20 Indian and non-Indian. Our stories were almost 70-30 Indian, non-Indian. The focus was always on what's the story we want to tell to open up the imagination of the people. And to me, awakening the youth, awakening the imagination of India was forefront. So for that, whatever it took, we brought it very clear, because we had to work harder at telling the Indian stories, because people just didn't know how to tell their stories. It would have been very easy for us to have everybody we knew outside India to tell the story, because they know how to tell their story. So, but it's a choice we made. That, like, when we have speakers, we always look at, do we have 50-50 men and women? Do we have 70-30 Indian, non-Indian? Do we have different disciplines? I mean, when we do an event, diversity is something we take very seriously. And so everything, even when we pick fellows, we are like, okay, what is the percentage of men and women? What is the percentage of tech, non-tech? What is the percentage of business, non-profit? What is the percent? You know, we are constantly checking ourselves to make sure we are not tipping the balance. You know, so that diversity of thought, of discipline, gender, is something we take seriously. Every conference we have, like, if we have 40 speakers, what is the split? You know, so we just make sure of that. So that's how it is global, because it's about the best, and India's best first, and then the best from the rest of the world. But it's about opening up the imagination of everyone in India. So that's the first thing. The second thing you asked about experimenting. I am a big believer that as a leader, you know, a third of my time has to be always experimenting. I mean, for the first 6-7 years, I spent literally 100% of my time fundraising and all these kinds of stuff. But that means I worked another 30% I didn't have on experimenting. I've never stopped experimenting, either at Inc. or with myself. So I think, for example, we were doing the conference. That was our big thing. But we did, you know, next billion online project with Google. We did, you know, Tinnovators project with Manipal. We did, you know, Ink Makers project in colleges to do, you know, create young people to make things. We ran contests in high schools. I mean, we just, every year, we had at least one program that taught us about a new audience or a new product. And then at the end, after a year, we would say, this is not making much money, but it's building a great brand. So let's see if we can move it to a nonprofit and get some foundation to support it, make it a brand building activity, or let's drop it. You know, let's do something else. So I think each of you, as you're building your companies, it's your job to find someone to support you in some activity that's taking your time. So at least a third of your time is taken in experimenting. Some of them are experimenting conversations. You know, I go and talk to, you know, somebody at Cirque du Soleil and say, hey, can we do something together? You know, I mean, I have no idea, but they're the best storytellers I know. So I have, out of the 10 conversations I have, only at best one results in actual business for Inc. But it's important for me to have those conversations, first of all, to expand my mind and my team's mind, because they're always listening to all these people, but also seek those unusual connections. And sometimes things come 5 years later, 6 years later after having, but if it's the right person, right thing, you feel, just keep having the conversation. So it's a tough thing when you're a startup CEO to think you can spare a third of your time. But you have to spend a third of your time in expanding yourself and your company to push them in new directions always. That's my belief.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And thank you so much for enlightening us today. I mean, it was so amazing that I can do an entire workshop with you and I can keep listening to you and keep asking questions, because I wrote 6 questions here, to be honest. And I mean, so thank you so much again for sparing your time. I think everyone was so excited, and the hands, people keep on raising hands and asking questions. And even in groups, like, people kept on writing, she's so amazing, you know. So thank you so much for joining in. I am also planning to build a fellowship of my own, which is a technology kind of fellowship, but I think there is so much to learn from you. Would definitely like to enroll for any courses that you do in future. I think because storytelling is absolutely important, being a founder, and I would request other people to join in as well. So thank you so much again.
My only thing I want to say to you is that one of the questions you all should ask yourself is, before I start something on my own, is there something else I can tag on to? Doing something on your own is always very, very difficult. So if you want to start your own fellowship, really question yourself, is that going to further your journey, or should you contribute 3 fellows to Rajeev Circle Fellows? I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, be very careful when you do something new, that you don't have any other avenue where you can tag on, experiment for a while before you start something on your own.
I think that's I think that's an important point, Anuba. Although I also feel that there is room for 1,000 new fellowships.
Absolutely.
Given the size of the country in India, we have such a huge country. Anuba, just quick, before we let Sanwar start, one, I would recommend, Anuba, maybe starting a fellowship around an event, anchoring it around event, depending on your budget. And I'm actually happy to, seed fund a little bit to start off something if you're interested, Anuba. But I'm thinking, let me give you an example that just comes on the top of my head. That, for example, you could do a fellowship around GITEX, right, in Dubai, which is like the consumer electronics show of Dubai. But you don't have to come all the way to CES, right? You could just do go to GITEX. Just take 4 people with you first. Take 5 people with you, right? But you're grooming them almost a month beforehand. Then they are showcasing their product at GITEX. Then when you come back, what you're doing is you are following up on all those connections that you made, and perhaps accelerating their product sale. Using those connections that you made at Dubai. And maybe first few fellowships, Anuba, you could make them almost free. You could ask other angel investors that like myself, and say, look, I'm starting this fellowship. Can you invest, $10,000 or whatever in me? And I'm going to do this, right? And that's fantastic, because that's the model we've used for MakerFest, where we said on our website, we put up, as you see, as you know, on MakerFest website, we have a link there which says, start your own MakerFest and we will invest in your MakerFest, right? And that's why it has become a bit of a social movement where people are doing their own. So I would actually love to see if you can replicate this kind of stuff, but anchor it around an event that's not too far off or not too expensive. CES might get expensive, but GITEX is affordable, doable. It's a 2-hour flight from India, or you could do something in Shenzhen. So I would say anchor it first few times, okay? And learn from that. As Lakshmi was saying, just, trial and error, learn from that. And the second idea is perhaps to piggyback on something, right, Anuba?
Yeah.
So what you could do is you could piggyback on something like RC Fellowship, or maybe talk to Inc. Fellows, and pick again, start small, 3, 4, 5 fellows that you can accelerate in your own way, given that you learned from your own, fabulous NGO. You got such incredible learnings from that. So you could do that also, which is maybe just piggyback. So we don't, a lot of times people don't need to reinvent the wheel on a bunch of stuff. But that said, India is such a massive country that I really think there is room for thousands more. And, just like our MakerFest, where we want literally every village to host their own MakerFest. If you guys can do something, and global is important, Anuba. Globalization is important, because we don't have a choice now in India. There is no way that as a nation, we can afford to be sitting around thinking only India. It has to be having some global connection. I don't care whether it is to Nepal, whether it is to Sri Lanka, but it has to have some global element which is outside of our borders, okay? So we should talk about this offline, but we should probably let Sanwar come in. I know he's a busy young man. And Lakshmi, thank you so much for being here, and please feel free, continue to stick around.
Yes, thank you.
And
Asha,
yeah,
Asha, I have a small comment before Lakshmi goes. So Lakshmi, I'm a big fan of this Simon Sinek, and I've been watching TED Talks a lot, and so even Vignesh and Mimi also mentioned. So I religiously followed this thing which he's doing in Find Your Why Discovery course and all that, and I've done for myself, few of my friends, and I also started with 2 companies, narrating their, articulating their vision statement, or you call it why discovery or call. And I was really amazed to listen that you are also developing this leadership course and purpose and all that. And I would, really be interested in maybe with these small examples, I have some learnings, and also I can tweak something to get better results. I can tweak some questions to get the answers, correct answers from the other person. So I would really be interested in, experimenting with you in this lines, in finding other person's vision statement and purpose and why discovery thing.
Sure. Thank you for that. Sure.
Thank you, Forum.
Okay.
Okay, we are going to start now with our next speaker.
Yes.
And I wanted to give a brief introduction to Sanwar. So here is how I ran into Sanwar. Okay. We had set up our first Maker Fest in Ahmedabad. And remember, how did the Maker Fest start? Lakshmi, I hope you're staying on for a little bit.
I'm here. Okay. I just turned my video off.
And I can't thank you enough for being with us, Lakshmi. And you know
course,
pretty much all my fellows. You know pretty much all my fellows, and my fellows know you. So, And so, by the way, Lakshmi is also with us for the long haul. This is not, end of Lakshmi's talk. And so we are going to be together for the long, many, many years now. And
Asha and I are, we are till death do us part. So
I think we are going to overlap, on many things at Inc., many things in the US.
Absolutely.
So none of you should feel anxious that, our speakers are coming and going. Yeah. Okay, on Sanwar. So I remember that when we set up our first Maker Fest in India, and how did the Maker Fest idea also come? Again, this is an opportunity for me to quickly tell you how this came about. My kids actually used to go to the Maker Fair in California. And I thought that if we can do this in California, wouldn't this be wonderful if there was something like this happening in India? And then serendipitously, there is this friend of mine called Emeka Okafor, who used to run the TED Fellows program. Emeka one day pinged me and said, Asha, I want to take the Maker Fair to Africa. And would you please, come in for the first, sort of little bit of seed support and so on. And can you help us set this up? And I remember we were like, okay, this is so exciting. He said, I have a TEDx organizer from Cairo. And, he said for some very small amount of money, we can get this up and running in Africa, and it will create a whole new kind of a paradigm shift in Africa. Can we start this? And we were like, okay, let's just watch what Emeka is doing. And Emeka set it up first in Cairo. Then he expanded it to Ghana, and it's all over Africa now. So if you Google Maker Fair Africa, it's all over. So it was that simple. And for me, it was like, if Emeka can do this in Africa, why not India? So we called a few people like NID and CEPT and, Ahmedabad University. And we said, can you give us your parking lot for free for 3 days? We want to host this Maker Fest. And they said, what is it? And, so we had to give them a little document, this, that. We set it up. And NID actually gave us like 30, 40 volunteers who set up, the booths and, things like that. And we had it in one of the front lawns of NID. And I remember that in the first Maker Fest, Ahmedabad, one day this young man called Sanwar Oberoi shows up saying, hi, my name is Sanwar, and Asha, I cannot believe that you are doing this Maker Fest. Sanwar, you remember? You were walking in from that, from upstairs towards the lawn in NID, and you said this, I get that. Wow, how did you, why is this happening and who started it? You were so excited about this. And you actually showcased your hemp startup at our first Maker Fest with all those gorgeous hemp products. And what you did, Sanwar, is following up on this whole philosophy of paying it forward, right? You set up a whole institute at NID on hemp. And ultimately the company grew. You came for the Rajeev Circle Fellowship in the Bay Area. You came back and forth. You leveraged actually a whole bunch of mentors and things like that, all of us ran into, and we leveraged you for teaching our future batches. Ultimately, Sanwar exited his company, made out like a bandit. I think he's much richer than what he's pretending to be. And now he's at the Stanford Business School for the 2-year MBA program. And I cannot tell you, for me, I just feel like this is just what the doctor ordered. This is what is my own dream, to see all of you becoming truly global citizens and just, building great companies, making mistakes, failing, picking up again, and not slowing down, because you're very young, you have your life ahead of you. And this is, this is such an exciting journey. And I'm actually honored to be, part of this journey. So Sanwar, run with it. It's all yours now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Asha, so much. And it's good to meet everyone. It feels so serendipitous to sort of, be speaking to RC fellows when I was an RC fellow in 2015. So 6 years ago, I was and that's the first time I came to the Silicon Valley. It was everything. I have to say this, and that a very almost everything that I am, everything that happened to my company, in all the positives, and all the learning curve and the journey was because of the Rajeev Circle Fellowship. Because it was, before going into it, you don't know what to expect. It's not like there is a bit of unstructure and there's structure. It's a beautiful balance of the two, and I think that's how it should be. And we didn't know going in what is going to come out of it. And even today, it's been 6 years since then, and even today, it's paying off. It's paying off, and it's benefiting me in ways that I did not even imagine how it would. And even once I was actually in the fellowship, I have, like what Asha said, which is that I'm at Stanford today, and I would not have come. I'm so comfortable. So I'm born and raised in Mumbai, but the only place I call as my second home outside of Mumbai is not even Delhi or Bangalore or other parts of India, but it's the Bay Area. And that comfort with the Bay Area would not have happened if Asha would have not sort of had the fellowship and brought us here, and all of the connections. And so many of them are just purely unplanned connections. You're walking down University Avenue and you come across somebody who's sitting at Coupa, or Coupa especially is a magical place that Asha introduced us to. And even today, magical connections keep happening at Coupa or on University Avenue, and in my whole life because of being at Rajeev Circle Fellowship. I remember, and I'll tell you this one quick thing, which is that there's a bar. I know this might not be most appropriate on a Sunday morning, or like for me at least Sunday morning, but I was at a bar called the Patio on University Avenue, and I'm just at the bar getting a drink, and there's a gentleman next to me, and he strike up a conversation saying, where are you from? What are you doing? And the minute I say Rajeev Circle Fellowship, you would not believe how far that word, that term, that brand goes here. Especially anybody who's associated with Google or with Stanford, anything to do with a bunch of these tech ecosystems, the minute you say these words and then the legacy that you are now a part of, it is magical. I trust me, you will realize this in your many years. You will keep realizing how, and proudly tell the world you're Rajeev Circle Fellows on your LinkedIn, on your resume. You leverage it because it is a very, very, it's an amazing brand, and a lot of people know about it. And so I validate that. Asha has not told me to say any of these things. I'm just saying that purely out of my own volition, because I have personally experienced this, and I am at Stanford today because of I got my exit. I found my Series A investors, my Series B investors, multiple customers. We eventually created a subsidiary in the US, even though we were an Indian parent company only in India. We created a subsidiary in the US, and ultimately my exit, and now me being at Stanford, all of that has come because of Rajeev Circle Fellowship. So anyway, I don't want to keep going more and more on it, but trust me, it's amazing. But I have to also say this, that it is on you. It is on how you to leverage it, because Asha Asha and the team will show you, okay, here's the entire spread. It's like a buffet spread. Here's everything that we have to offer. Here's everything that is available on a platter. But then it's up to you and the whole sort of individual effort and resilience and resolve in going out and putting yourself out there. And it might be very uncomfortable, and I can speak a bit of that journey as well. I'm talking so much right now, but both Lakshmi and Asha have seen me. They've seen me when I was 21, I was 22 years old. I'm 31 now. So Asha and Lakshmi, they know me for almost 7 to 10 years now. And so they've seen how I was back then. I could just my words, my sentences, the phrases that you use, it's so important, because even the way you describe your own idea in your own head changes once you get exposed to what Asha calls as sort of this rocket ship of getting exposed to the Bay Area way of thinking. Because Bay Area, and Silicon Valley that Asha keeps telling us is that it's not a physical space, it's a mind space. It's a philosophy that you can have the Silicon Valley mindset in Bangalore or anywhere in the world for that matter. It just depends on sort of whether you adopt that kind of psychology and that kind of growth mindset that is here, and that ecosystem support that here it's okay to fail, and they give you credit for trying. But yeah, I want to just come back to that point and say that the onus is on you. I mean, congratulations for having made it here so far, which is amazing. Clearly, sort of, you all are amazing people, because I know it's a super competitive program as well, and so many people keep pinging me saying, what can I do to get considered as a Rajeev Circle Fellow, and when do applications open? But now that you guys are here, do please leverage each other. So Asha is always there, and the team is there. But the critical part is, even in my case, I have. So in my batch, there's a guy called Nirman. Some of these people, I don't know whether you all have interacted, but Nirman was there, Henry was there, and even today, and we were very different from Nirman was, I think, 6 years younger than me, from a very different technical background. Henry's from a very different background, but even today, we're super close. Our WhatsApp group is still super active, and there are many other communities that I got a chance to be a part of, but we're nowhere close to being as active on that as we were, because we still continue to leverage each other, because Nirman is growing himself. I'm growing, and all of us are growing in our own ways, getting more exposed to the world. And so more than just always, instead of Asha being at the central node and everything only connecting at Asha, she's just the igniter. And then it's on to the community to help each other out and actually then go across. There's Sijo, Asha, if you know Sijo, if you remember Sijo from, okay, yeah, so you guys are nodding. So I connected across batches as well. And so that being able to leverage that is that community is more powerful than any other community that I've ever been a part of. And so, but sorry, I'm just rambling on a bunch of these topics, but I'm going to...
Sanvar, speaking of Sijo, I'll just share a little snippet for a few seconds. But Sijo actually, after the fellowship, he went back to the government of Rajasthan. And at that time, that lady was running, she was the chief minister. What's that?
Rajeev.
Vijaya Raje Scindia. So she actually gave Sijo $1 million. And, Sanvar, he brought over 100 people from India. And they were, and in fact, I was jealous. I was saying, like, they were all staying at the Marriott. And I was like, look, my fellows are sleeping on sofas, and Sijo is now bringing fellows who are sleeping at the Marriott. This is just something else. But he created his own fellowship where he pitched the government of Rajasthan and brought, almost 100 people from Rajasthan to come to the Bay Area and plug into various incubators, accelerators, and so on. So I think Sijo is coming as a speaker, maybe sometime today, or maybe he's come and gone. But Sanvar, leveraging each other, what Sanvar is saying, I think is so critical, because that's something where you learn from each other on this. And so, Sanvar, tell us about your journey also, about this company and how you pivoted, and then ultimately what made you decide to come to Stanford. Why are you planning to invest 2 years of your time into the MBA program?
Yeah. We were an agri tech startup in India. We were focused on making hemp happen in India. I'll tell you, there's two versions of my company. There's a version of my company before coming to Rajeev Circle Fellowship, or basically actually coming to the Bay Area and getting exposed to this mindset. And then it changed considerably. In fact, I know exactly when it changed. When we were lucky that Asha took us to meet this guy called Jack Hidary. Two conversations, one with Jack Hidary and another conversation with Pete, I think Sophie guy. By the way, you guys are lucky. We all are lucky because these are not regular names. These are very, very heavy duty names. If you look them up, these are sort of icons in their own. So they're Asha's friends, of course. We're lucky that she has friends of this sort. But anyway, we those two conversations about how to look at things in a very different context. So prior to sort of the Rajeev Circle Fellowship, we were thinking of as a solutions-focused startup. You see, in India, nobody helps you in figuring it out. And at least, and so when we started the company in 2012. And so the whole sort of, there wasn't enough knowledge back home in terms of sort of how to look at a startup. And we were a very solution oriented startup. We say, okay, you know, here's a material, hemp, that grows in the north of India in the Himalayas, and you know, maybe there'll be a market for it. So let's try to make the solution fit retrospectively into a problem, which we didn't start the startup with a problem in mind. We started with that, oh, there's an excess a supply of a material, so let's try to see where it fits in. But after coming here is when we realized, to date, my biggest learning in my life in startups is simple. It's the whole idea of product market fit. Nothing can overstate the criticality of product market fit. To truly just never, and it's very hard, it's very counterintuitive, never fall into the trap of thinking that, I have this awesome, like you can think of AI, you can think of blockchain, you can think of amazing technologies, but that's not the correct way of saying that, oh, I want to be in AI, so let me go find a place where AI can be used. Or I want to build something in blockchain, so let me find a place where blockchain can be used. No, the correct way, and which I realized only after coming here and these conversations made me realize, no, it's the other way around, that you should first say, what specific product gap exists, what market is not served, what niche area, what gap do you identify somewhere that is not being solved currently, or is not being solved in a way that you think it should be solved. Find a problem first, and then say, okay, and then you should be regardless of the solution. Maybe AI can help, maybe blockchain can help, maybe you don't even need all of that, maybe just simple data science can help. Maybe actually it's regardless of solution. That change, that I'm telling you, I remember to date, May 2015 is a critical part of my life, because that's when I came here as a Rajeev Circle Fellow. And since that day, everything changed for me, because when I went back home, it completely changed me as a co-founder. I had co-founders back in India. It changed how I would interact with them as well. So post 2015, in fact, from the time we started the company, we had not raised a single dollar in capital. And in 2015, after I came back from Rajeev Circle Fellowship, that was in May, we'll end up raising our first round literally in July of that, like in 2 months of coming back, just because, and it's not like we were not trying to raise money before, but my pitch deck and how I concept it, the company is the same, but how you define your own company makes a world of a difference. The words that you use in the context and the framing that you set yourself in. Uber can describe themselves in 10 different ways. It depends on you as a founder on how to describe your own company. So that changed for us, where we're like, okay, we stopped saying that, oh, there's this surplus material available, so we are a startup trying to find a market for it. We changed it. We said that no, in these specific sectors and categories, there's a demand for these few raw materials, and I think I have this solution now that actually fits into sort of this space as well. And it's amazing, by the way, speaking of fellowships, and it's amazing that I didn't know this, that I'm coming to speak at 11 o'clock and Lakshmi speaking before me. But I on my Instagram, I have this one picture that I put up with me. We were at TiECon, and I clicked a picture with Asha and Lakshmi. And so the Inc. Fellowship and the Rajeev Circle Fellowship. By the way, I've gone on to win many more. This Ashoka thing and Forbes 30 and 30. I won many more things since then. But to date, the two most my pillars that have changed my way of thinking was the Inc. Fellowship and the Rajeev Circle Fellowship, because it was the two of them in combination, which are different from each other. One was the Rajeev Circle one was super focused on sort of giving you this whole Bay Area and Silicon Valley mindset. But the Inc. Fellowship, which opened up a community of, it was validation for me, which is that, you know, when you're attempting something very, very no one has tried before, and then you go into this community of Inc., which is some of the best intellectuals in the country, in the audience. You have senior leadership across Indian industry sitting in the audience listening to me as a 21, 22-year-old. And when they clap, even the clap at the end of your talk, you feel like, oh my God, because till that point in your life, nobody has validated you. It's so weird to say, but validation for an entrepreneur is such a big thing. It goes very unsaid, but I cried, and I have no qualms in me openly sort of saying that I actually cried both of the times, both at Rajeev Circle and at Inc. Because that acceptance, when you put yourself out there taking a massive risk in your life, you are all smart people. You could have gone and joined Google or McKinsey or any of these consulting firms or VCs or whatever, but you choosing to do what you're doing, and when you finally get validated for that, you can't but get emotional about it. And so all of my investors have come either from Inc. or from Rajeev Circle. And sometimes and it's actually a small community. So in fact, when you tell one person, a common person, that I'm a Rajeev Circle Fellow and an Inc. Fellow combined, it's just like the validation. It's you're borrowing credibility. You're like, oh, if organizations of this sort have taken you into their cohort, that means that you already passed a certain sort of threshold or a filter, and the whole trust element, where you go from being an unknown person to something that very large institutions like Inc. and Rajeev Circle have validated you, and do please leverage that for your own for your own journey. I want to quickly sort of just finish saying what Asha had asked me, which is that it was from my seed round that I raised in 2015, right after coming back from Rajeev Circle Fellowship. A couple of the investors I met through RC, a couple of the investors I met through Inc. In fact, my seed round actually happened when I was here for the first time as a Rajeev Circle Fellow at the Rosewood Hotel on Sand Hill Road, oddly enough. But we, from there to 2020, when I exited the company after multiple rounds, we sold the company to a large Canadian strategic player in our space, a large publicly listed company. Then it was still the learnings from both Inc. and Rajeev Circle sort of still echo, which is that I think that I found myself at these places. I found that I'm still very driven by social impact, using for-profit business models to create social impact, which is sort of the idea that I know Asha supports. Even she's connected to Acumen. Acumen literally does the exact same thing. Acumen is the organization really promoting the idea that you can use capitalism but for good. And there's no shame in saying ROI and capital should return money as well, but by just purely business model design, you can create amazing outcomes on a social impact point of view as well. And so you should go, by the way, you should go read Acumen's manifesto. So Acumen on their website has a thing called the manifesto. If you've not, I highly recommend you reading Acumen's manifesto. And of course, Asha is like the elite within the Acumen sort of universe. So you can speak to her about that as well. But I knew that about myself, and for me, I know that 2 weeks in the Bay Area had changed my life so much. So it was no doubt for me that if 2 weeks in the Bay Area can change my life so much in 2015, and I was feeling it till I was in 2020 as well, I knew without a doubt that now that I've exited my startup and I have time and I have the luxury of not necessarily earning my bread from the next day, I have to come to the Bay Area on a more long-term basis. And that just clearly means that between Berkeley and Stanford, which is amazing that both of these massive, amazing ecosystem universities are literally in the Bay Area, I have to sort of apply here. And it lands up being that my recommenders were people I met between Rajeev Circle and Inc. Lakshmi was one of my recommenders, by the way. She's the one who wrote my letter of recommendation. Asha and the Rajeev Circle Fellow. And I wrote, by the way, written on top of my application that Inc. and Rajeev Circle I'm a member of, because within Stanford and Berkeley, these are very, very highly respected communities. And so now I'm just 3 weeks in now, and I can already feel the difference. I don't even know what I will become 2 years once I graduate. And work on my new startup in social enterprise. But I'm going to pause.
Sorry, Sanwar, I just have one thing to say, that I think the other thing I think that the fellowship has done for you, especially coming here to the Bay Area and all that stuff, the shift is you also discovered another side of you while you were doing hemp. I remember you coming back and talking about this whole brain-computer interface and your interest in technology and all the conversations you had here, how they open up. So I just wanted to point out to say who you are also will change over time. While when he started, he was more interested in being an entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, etc. He's much more clear today. It may change 5 years from now today that he wants to be in technology more. So I think you have to be open to discovery within yourself and invest the time and resources it takes to develop that. So that was an interesting conversation I had with Sanwar. We talked about this ad nauseum. Should you spend 2 years of your time and so much money going to business school, or should you start in a tech company and just work there? And we had a lot of conversation about it. So I just wanted to give that point of view that sometimes you will change, your interests will change. And I've seen that happen with Sanwar.
Should we open up the floor for Q&A with Sanwar?
Yeah, we already have a few questions, maybe.
Yeah, hi, Sanwar. I am always the devil that asks for the details. So I'm going to jump right in and ask you about a very granular thought process of starting a hemp company, then doing it a little before time when the regulations, etc., even in the United States, are not in place, and then pivoting and all of that, and then ultimately selling it. So can you describe like your thought process through each stage, and then of course how it changed with time, with regulations, with you coming here, and all of that in terms of the formation of seed of a company to exit?
Oh, that's a lot, but I think instead of going, and I have a tendency to speak too much as well, so I'm being very mindful of now not going into that well. But just to be honest, the question I feel fortunate that I can keep reminding myself, and again I know that there are people like Lakshmi and Asha as guardians in my life, so that I can always go to and as mentors, the best mentors I've ever had. So the thing is that many times I've hit this fork in the road, and I always ask myself that, should I go for the economic safety? I know I'm a good talent and I could do well in a couple of companies. But the thing I keep telling myself, and in fact, both Lakshmi and Asha sort of keep igniting that flame, is that, we're young. Because by the way, they've had amazing lives and careers in their own, and they've done amazingly very risky things, which now, back in when they were growing up as well, and when you look at their lives as well, and so when I look at myself as well, which is that the time that we live in, it's the time when people who go out there and take massive risk, pursue ideas that haven't been pursued, breaking norms, breaking sort of current ways of thinking. It's so scary, but this is the best time in human history when that was possible, right? And ecosystems exist. The guys who were founding Infosys didn't have any, like, a tenth of the resources that we have today. You have Rajeev Circle Fellowship, you have Inc., you have all of these amazing communities that didn't exist for so many people before us. And so for me, it turned out that, by the way, so I was accepted as an Inc. fellow the year we started the company, and which is why it's so special for me, which is that we, it was a super risky thing, but I was 21 at that time, and I knew that when I'm 21, I have nothing to lose, and I can take this biggest risk of my life and going into this. And I know there'll be a lot of ridicule, because also working in hemp is a very eyebrow raising aspect, but that's the point of taking risk. And now I'm 31. It's 10 years, but I'm 31 now, and I feel the same way. I feel I'm 31. It's just the start of my my career. If I don't take risk today, I don't want to take this when I'm 50, and maybe when I'm 50 I'll feel the same way. I see Lakshmi and Asha still as youthful. You should see their energy and their youthfulness. They're still they have childlike curiosity even today. It's amazing, by the way, and that's one of the things, oddly enough, I've imbibed from them, which is that to have childlike curiosity and to always feel that you can take risk, because at the worst of it, we have to recognize privilege, and we're privileged enough that if nothing else works out, I know I can always apply to Google, or apply. Some company in the world will want to have me if nothing else works out. I feel somewhat confident enough of myself. I don't know that. I don't have offers in hand, but I feel that kuch nahi hua to some company will I can find myself in some company at least. And knowing that suddenly takes away all of my worry, which is that when I have mentors like that and a safety net that I think I have, I can go on and at whatever age I feel I can take on the riskiest of ideas, because I'm going to be 31 only once in my life. I'll be 35 only once in my life. And so if not now, then when, right? So sorry, I know I've not necessarily answered your thing, but
my question was entirely very different. Hemp is now very cool, right? It's like place you want to be in. So when you started your company, it was a very different atmosphere around it, especially in India. So how did you what was the thought process behind starting a hemp company then? And then are there any regrets of selling in the coolest sector now, or do you think it was a great time to get acquired?
I may have to take some of this offline, because it might go too much detail, but I love economics. I got interested in hemp because we were looking at a gap in crops, that what high value crops naturally grow in India, that are being underutilized. So when you make a matrix of that, it's not just hemp, by the way. There's gongura. Gongura is a pickle in Andhra. Lakshmi knows very well. So gongura is also a crop that they eat pickle out of, but the rest of the crop they throw away. But it turns out that the gongura fibers are the best fibers on the planet for oil absorption, geocarpets to put on top of when oil spill happens on the ocean. Now, or rice husk. The traditional rice industry just makes the rice grain and sells rice grain and makes money on the rice grain. That's the only monetizing point of the whole crop. But it turns out rice husk, and something I learned from Henry, by the way. So Henry and because the maker community of Asha is super involved in 3D printing, it's actually from the maker community that I learned that rice husk makes very good 3D printing filament material with a combination with PVC. That's a very good bio material for 3D printing, which means that potentially rice farmers in India or rice farmers anywhere in the world could also monetize the husk and create a dual source of revenue from the same crop, which actually hedges it changes the economics completely. So I was doing a PhD, which I didn't continue, but I was doing a PhD in finding solutions for low-income farmers, and that's why we came across hemp. So hemp appealed to me from an economic viability point of view. Yeah, and in terms of selling it now, no, I don't regret it at all. I think there's a time and place for everything. The time had come for the company to move over to professional management, and we were lucky to have got buyers, and so it worked out perfectly okay. I have no regret that I mean I love the company, I love the team. I play still a part of the board of advisors, but in fact, what Lakshmi spoke about, right? Because me coming to the Bay Area changed me. It changed the future of my company, but changed me because I got so deep into it. I'm not from a STEM. I'm from an economics background, but I fell in love with technology so much that I'll sign up for brain-computer interfaces, and I'll sign up. I learned. I've gone so deep into tech now. It's like I got bit by the bug, and so my next 10 years of my life I want to dedicate towards working in deep technology, and so yeah, I'm just pursuing curiosity.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else having any questions?
So I have a quick question. Is anybody raising money? Seed round, Series A? Okay, Vikas, Anushka, Shashwat, Imtiaz. Okay. Yeah, so Siddharth. Oh, okay. You guys are raising money. Interesting. By the way, so one thing is a very Bay Area thing, but I don't know if you guys have been doing this or not. But it felt very. See, coming from India, our relationship with raising money and asking for money is both Lakshmi and Asha, they speak about this a lot themselves, and so I learned from them only about this, which is that. In India, we have this hesitation. In fact, maybe if Lakshmi is there, she can actually talk more about this, but these are her words actually. She says that, as Indians, somehow, for some reason, we have this hesitation on asking for money, right? A founder will spend a lot of time in building up the idea, and then at the end, just very, very meekly just put across this thing. Don't be afraid to, I learned this the hard way, but just feel free to unabashedly sort of put yourself out there and write to people cold. Like, even if you don't know them, cold write to people in the Bay Area. The Bay Area, that's the thing. What is the psychology of the Bay Area? It is the whole thing that everybody's approachable. Assume everybody's approachable and everybody operates with good intent unless proven otherwise, which is the other way around in India, that assume that everybody's closed off unless you can make your way into them. So in this is just assume we're not used to that. I wasn't used to that. I'm Indian. I just moved here 3 weeks ago. Which is that the idea to put yourself out there, but unabashedly not be embarrassed about raising money. Cold write to people on LinkedIn, and the whole works. And there are amazing angel networks and things of that sort in the Bay Area. By the way, there are people I know in Rajeev Circle Fellowships, even the classes or the fellowships after mine, who have a company in India, and it's very well understood that people in the US have this apprehension of sending money to India. But you'd be surprised. It is possible. It's not. It does. Of course, the flow is more within the US itself. But I have seen somebody at the Rajeev Circle Fellowship. Her name is Kalyani. She's an Ing Fellow and Rajeev Circle Fellow. She came on the first day, mass emailed a bunch of people, and on the 14th day, she had her seed check in her hand. and money that was willing to be wired from the US to India. And so all I'm saying, but again, what did she do? She had zero connections other than whatever started with Rajeev Circle and Inc. She just mass wrote to people here, and it works out. You'll hear a lot of no's, but eventually you will get a yes. So don't think twice in actually just unabashedly asking for money, because it's not that you're asking for money, it's the other way around. You are providing an opportunity for investment for these investors. It's weird, but it's true. It's you are looking out for them as much as they're looking out for you. So if you have to ever get a job in VC, the only way you can get a job in VC is if you come to the table in a VC interview and say, hey, look at these 10 amazing startups that I have access to. So in VC, to get a job in VC is the other way around, that VCs they value you if you have access to amazing startups to invest in, because they have a dearth of good startups to look out for. So you are providing them an opportunity. So think of it the other way around, that you're doing them a favor in a way. So sorry, I'm going to stop talking. Nandita, you have a question?
Hey, Sanvar. Hi. Oh God, let me just start by saying you're so energetic, and it is like, I think, it's a good way to end this weekend session of ours with such an energetic person. And yeah, what you said is absolutely right. Regarding the waste products that we have, I also noticed that you have worked regarding the fourth industrial revolution. You mentioned it in your LinkedIn page. Being a person who works with waste, as in one of them is, I have previously created something called a cat litter from waste. Basically, it was a necessity for me, but then because I have 18 cats, by the way, so it was like a need for me to have a sustainable litter, and it was from food waste actually. But then it is right now being manufactured, and I have someone else is taking care of it. Yeah, but the thing is, I noticed that you worked with a lot of fabrics as well. So my main work is regarding textiles, and I work in a lab called Textile Lab Amsterdam. So I was wondering, is hemp the only thing that you have gone to, or have you explored other materials regarding textiles, or something related like bioleather, or maybe?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, for sure. That's the thing that we developed only after coming back from Rajasthan. When we realized that, oh wait, we're doing it wrong, we should find a gap in the market and build something for that gap, not the other way around. So we'll end up building this thing called a hemp fabric lab, which, while it sounds like it's only hemp fabric, but it turned out to be that we then realized that, wait, what is the gap in the market? There's a gap that because of Instagram, because of Shopify and Instagram, now there's so many young brand designers coming out and creating their own collections. The whole thing of indie collections and small collections is now small shops and stores online because of Shopify, and Instagram is now sort of bursting away. And the entire textile supply chain, the traditional textile supply chain, is well built only for the large MOQs, right? Large orders. And so Nike and H&M will place this very large order with companies in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Vietnam, etc. Right? So the entire textile supply chain was built only for large orders. And then that's when we realized, but again, no, this you'll never read in a report. Nobody will say that, oh, textile supply chain is built for large, this thing, so many things are coming up because of Shopify and Instagram now, so therefore there's a gap in the market for companies to supply low MOQ. Nobody will write all of that in a concise thing and give it to you like that, but you have to connect the dots and say, oh yeah, it's built for these large guys, but because of this trends of Shopify and Instagram, there's so many young designers now. Where will young designers go to build their product? And there are other websites in the US, but which is very generic. If you want to make one typical white t-shirt, you want to do customizations on that, then of course it's well built for that. But for designers who want to play around with materials, which a fair few now want to, where do they go for low MOQ? If somebody wants to buy 1 meter of fabric, is it even possible on the internet to buy 1 meter fabric? Oddly enough, it wasn't. It's actually very, very difficult to buy 1 meter of sustainable fabrics. So we realized, okay, so that's my exact market I'm going to go out for. I'm going to go for people who are starting out their new collection, who have nowhere to go, have no help. They don't have any connection to the textile supply chain. They are not going to go to Bangladesh and whatever and find these guys, because they're building small collections. And what do they know best? They only know how to design their own product, that design in terms of like what for the customer they want to sort of sell to, and then they're going to run their own Instagram and they're just going to reach out to their audience. Everything else. So we built Hemp Fabric Lab as a specialist supplier for low MOQ orders only. So in fact, we would market ourselves saying, if you have above 100 meter requirement or above 200 meter requirement, don't even talk to us. The full supply chain is well built for people who have large orders. But if you're small orders, I am your best friend, and I'll take care of everything else. You just describe you. We said you are amazing creators out there. So we would call them creators, which is now a very popular term because of NFTs, but we would call them creators, saying that you guys are amazing creators who want to create amazing products. And we want to enable you. So you do what you do best, and I will take care of everything else. So you want, even if it's not in my process, but if you want to go get organic dyes done, you want any kind of block printing with organic materials, suit a carbon extracted from the environment, all of that sort of stuff. So we built one complete end-to-end solution. Some of it was in-house and some of it we would sort of work with partners on. We said that I'll take care of everything for you, but you as this amazing young designer who's just finished school or still is in fashion school or whatever, I am going to be your best friend. I'll take care anything in Asia. In full Asia, I'll take care of all of that. If I have to send something, I'll coordinate with you. If you find some amazing guy in Indonesia, I'll coordinate with all of that. I'm going to take care of your manufacturing. Even if it's, I'll coordinate on your behalf with that guy, even if I don't know that guy. But you just do, marketing and design is yours. You take care of that. I'll take care of everything else. Don't worry. And by building, but only for low MOQ orders. So I said, once we start building ourselves for that very specific niche, it turned out really well. It's the most profitable part of our business even today. And it's the world's second largest supplier now of low MOQ ordering, which is now a thing apparently. So we landed working with many materials, in fact. So bamboo, a lot, bamboo, lyocell, rPET, recycled polyester, so blends, but again, not material science the way you're describing. So not innovations in a lab in a factory, which is like bio leather and that kind of stuff, but aggregating the existing sustainable supply chains so that I can then take on my balance sheet. So if there is a supplier in Indonesia for amazing sustainable bamboo material, but he has large MOQs, I can take it onto my balance sheet because I'm aggregating many small people. In a sense, many small. So say one person in Copenhagen wants 5 meters, and another person in Vancouver wants 10 meters. They don't have buying power. They don't have buying power to negotiate with the end guy there, but I'm the middle guy, so I can aggregate collectively and I can then place a bulk order and pass on the benefit ahead. So just being an aggregator in the middle, bundling, the whole concept, you should look up bundling and unbundling. So me being the bundler in the middle of all of those guys, we use that to our advantage, and that turned out to be pretty good retrospectively.
I just want to say that there are some really interesting things going on in materials also. Like one of our Inc. fellows, Ankit Agarwal, runs a company called Phool, PHOOL, and they take temple waste flour and they convert it to leather, biodegradable leather. So there is some very interesting things happening in India on this. So one is what Sanvar is talking about, the process you use and the middleman role you can play, which is extremely powerful, and the other one is innovating something that's new. They both are happening in India, which is very wonderful to see.
Sanvar, just an add-on question to what I asked. Have you tried 3D printing the hemp? Yeah, we have. In fact, using the Asha's makerspace in Ahmedabad. CPT, at least I don't know if it's still there post-COVID, but CPT used to have an amazing space. If any of you, so yeah, I have things at home which are made from hemp bioplastics. Great. Okay. And what Lakshmi just said, the bio leather, I didn't know Phool came up with the bio leather. I knew they were working on it. I don't know whether you know about Malai, which is a company from Kerala who's also doing a bio leather. Actually. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Again, fortunate to be in the company of such esteemed people, but Ankit is an Inc. fellow from Phool. And so it's amazing to spend time with him. If any of you are in Delhi, we can connect you, Lakshmi or I, or can connect you with Ankit at Phool. But yeah, it's crazy. Like sometimes you look at the people in your community and say, oh my God, I can't believe I'm in the company of these people. But that's what we're lucky to be a part of these fellowships. Sorry, but I think, yeah, if there are no more questions, then we can go.
Yeah. Anyone else has any questions? Please go ahead, ask away.
Also, if any of you guys want anything from Stanford, let me know. I mean, of course, Asha is always there, but if you want at a more student level stuff instead of such senior level, then you can let me know. I can help you with guys.
Because
yes,
yeah.
Hi Sanvar. I really wanted to say the same thing what Nandita mentioned, like super energetic, contagious energy. Thanks a lot for passing it on virtually. And the second thing, man, just a simple request. I come from blockchain background. I have been into this space from like last 5 years. So if you can actually connect me with any sort of like student community there who are exploring blockchain, crypto. Blockchain is main thing because crypto is just a part of it, part and parcel. But technology wise, I'm like super interested, and I've been doing few things. I would love to share a few things when they are like ready. Yeah, I'll use it. Yes.
I just shared my email. I could connect you with the Stanford Blockchain Club.
Yeah.
They do a lot of stuff, and they know the professors and they know the company. So they're the center place of connecting the entire blockchain universe at Stanford. So I can connect you with the people at the blockchain club, which is.
I follow Amin Gur Sarer. I think he's from Berkeley, and his work Avalanche and stuff, like when he launched the Snowflake consensus and stuff. I definitely read through. I'm like deep reading all these blockchain specifically. I'm just like investing my time and energy into just that space. Yeah. And thanks a lot. I'll definitely email you. Thanks a lot, Sanvar. It was a very, very condensed session, but with a lot of nuggets. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think this was the last session of our fellowship. So, I mean, you being the last speaker, it kind of, created that vibe on a very positive note, and leaving them with so much of energy that I think everybody would get back, contact each other. And I think we have met earlier this year only. So glad to have you back and connect with you. Definitely would be looking forward to connect more. Thank you so much for sparing your time, and it is always pleasure to be with you or host you or listen to you. I mean, you inspire so much. But if you remember, we met in Tycon when we were speaking at the panel, and so definitely looking forward to meet you sometime. But thank you so much, everyone, because in India, like, it's really late, but everybody is here and listening to the conversation. It's already 12:30, so we are past midnight, but people are still here. People are loving the session. So thank you so much, everyone. And now Chandni, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, okay. I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, so that's a wrap, everyone. That's a wrap of this year's fellowship. We had a really, really great journey, I would say. We had a lot of fun together. Though it would have been much better if we would have all met in person, stayed in the RC home and had some, even more interesting conversations. But of course, nothing ends here. We, of course, are going to stay connected forever now. We will be adding you all to the larger RC WhatsApp group that we have, where we are connected with all the RC alums. So you'll be able to communicate with all our speakers and all the guests that have been part of the fellowship this year. And of course, we will definitely inform you when we do some impromptu catch-up sessions with the fellows or any meetups or any guests coming in. So yeah, but I think this marks the end of our journey. So congratulations, everyone. We had a lot of fun together, and we definitely hope to stay connected for a long, long time now. And yeah, that's it. Anybody who would like to add or say anything?
I just want to say, because Lakshmi said, let's celebrate yourself first. So let's have a huge round of applause for ourselves, for grilling us, late nights, all of that, and sitting through all talks, lectures.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yes, we have created a Clubhouse group. So I hope people would be there, all the past and present fellows. we can host WhatsApp sessions like Kya Chal Raha Hai, since we cannot have Chai Pe Charcha. So, and I hope everybody decides to come to the United States, and we can have an in-person meeting as soon as like regulations permit. Would be very good to do some things together.
Yeah.
I would like to say a couple of things. Few takeaways are very, very straight for me. Like, first of all, I'm taking like these amazing folks from, first of all, from Pakistan. I don't think like I had my first person from Pakistan with whom I've talked like when Yahoo Messenger was a thing. So I still am connected with that guy on Facebook, on LinkedIn and stuff. We still maintain that. But yeah, first of all, getting to know more about the other part of the world, like I would say, like especially Pakistan, I'm like getting to know more things, and the things are pretty healthy there. Like otherwise, this media show you very, very different thing. As Asha generally says that knowing geopolitical stuff also is very, very important for your own growth. Like GITEX happening in Dubai, all these things. Otherwise, like it's mostly the responsibility on the shoulder of the founder itself, that you have to manage all these things. But now essentially there are many things as a founder like we can explore in other areas as well. I don't know, like whenever it will happen for all of us, let's say whenever we'll be visiting Bay Area and stuff, I really want to meet my customers, like who have been helping me last 3.5 years. Like they have been pretty supportive. But first of all, this bonding that I was able to forge here with all of these people, I know we are like yet few people I'm yet to talk, but Vignesh I have talked very at length, Nandita, Nimi, and Kashf of course, and Abhishek also I have talked. But there are a lot of people I have not able to talk more, but I would love to talk in very soon. Like, and thanks a lot, guys. I learned a lot, like being passively. I was learning from each of you, few of their personalities, few of their information, the way they share things. Especially Abhijit, I love the way he present himself. Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot.
Guys, not to forget, we need to thank Asha for bringing us all here together. It would have, none of this would have been possible without.
Needless to say, I think she says that she will retire, but I don't think that she'll retire, or we will let her retire. Thanks a lot. I think, is she here? Yes, she is here. Yes, thank you. Thanks a lot, Asha. Thanks a lot. This is a marvelous experience. Yes.
Thank you so much, Asha. This is, I mean, needless to say, but this wouldn't have been possible without you. And if I met you in 2013 when I was trying to start a drug company back in India, was much more energetic than now. I think I would have been a very different person, I'm sure. Especially after listening to Sanvar, I'm definitely sure of that.
And most important, of course, Asha is one of the reasons why we are here. But we should not forget Chandni and Anuba, because without their support and kind of nudge, it was impossible for us to be here. Especially online Zoom meetings, very difficult, and I'm sure all of us are tired with Zoom meetings. So thanks Chandni, thanks Anuba. That's most critical thing that I should say here.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to Chandni and Pooja, like they have been so spontaneous to do this online. We were not sure actually, like how would we pull this online, because this is the first cohort we are doing online. But I think Chandni is so brilliant at organizing. When we were also fellows in 2019, when we were traveling, she was the only one who organized that year as well. So, I mean, her experience and expertise and all of that worked really well. And yeah, so thanks to her and to Pooja, because both of them were like really incredible. And thank you to both of them as well.
If I may add a comment, that I think Sanvar has in a wonderful way personified what this whole what Farsi Fellowship is about. Like I can imagine like that is the personality that I would want to develop in the future. And further that I'm sure all of us do take online courses for self-improvement and whatnot, but none of those skills would have given us the lessons that we've gathered in this session, because being a part of such group and hearing your life stories and getting those perspectives, I think that has been the biggest thing over here. And thank you, Chandni, and thank you, Asha ma'am, for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this group.
Well, we do have a couple of more things to do before we all go our own ways. Of course, the 60-second video is on the time now. So yeah, but thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you everyone for cooperating with us, for being there for such late night sessions and everything. I mean, none of this is like a one person's job. I mean, everybody, each one of you have worked really hard towards this, being there, interacting, attending all of these sessions. So thank you everyone. Yeah, and that's the end of the session tonight.
Thank you everyone. वो ना किसी ने ना लिखा है कि ना अकेला ही